going to start. Thank you so much. We're coming to the end of this fantastic meeting of TWAS. And today, I have the honor of sharing this session with Professor Sabah Al-Monin, who is the Vice President of TWAS for Arab countries. And it's an honor to be here with you. And we have the pleasure of sharing this session on health challenges in the Global South. So we feel we are most privileged to have distinguished participants from Brazil, South Africa, China, and Uzbekistan. And their experience bring rich perspectives to our discussion. Health is central to sustainable development, and our exchange today can help turn shared challenges into opportunities for cooperation, innovation, as well as resilient solutions. So please, Professor, can you do the honor of calling all the members?
Thank you very much, Professor Elena Nader. It's an honor to share to co-chair with you in this session. We have very distinguished speakers today, and we'll start with Professor Nízia Trindade, the former Minister of Health of Brazil.
You can see it's easier, and then
after. Yeah. Our second distinguished speaker is Professor Salem Abdul Karim, the director at the Center of the AIDS Program of Research in South Africa, Caprisa, South Africa. Welcome, Dr. Abdul Karim. Third speaker will be George Fugao from the Chinese Center of Disease Control and Prevention, China. And Professor Shalo Turdiku Lina. Sorry, Shalo. And she is the Vice President at the Academy of Sciences in the Republic of Uzbekistan. Welcome, distinguished professors. And we will start with Professor Nízia. Please.
Okay. Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here in so important meeting. TWAS is a very crucial reference to think about the problems of the science in Global South, as you have assisted here during this conference. My speech is about one specific challenge. That is the challenge on the, let's just see a second. The challenge about the social inequality in terms of science and technology. Social and economic inequality has a very important key point in terms of inequality in science and technology. I think that among many challenges that you have to face, this is one of the most important for our countries. Before continue the presentation, I'd like to thank Professor Elena Nader and Professor Sabah, the co-chair of this session, and to express my happiness to be here with so distinguished colleagues. Now, I just want to begin with this image and this quotation of Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk is the inventor of the polio vaccine before Sabin vaccine in 1955. He was asked by a TV commentator, "Do you own the patent for the vaccine?" In defense of the vaccine as a universal public good, he replied, "Could you patent the sun?" So, 7 years late, real-world interests were reviewed and vaccines emerged as a central economic sector for health and as a key instrument of power in the global geopolitics of knowledge during the pandemic crisis. And here, I think that we have to think the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic in terms of global asymmetries and challenges for the future of health. Not only the asymmetries, inequalities have an impact for the emergence, but the pandemic itself caused a lot of impacts, and you have to face them just to think about reducing inequality in our countries. This part now that I'm going to present is part of an article published in CDC weekly journal edited by George Gao, published in 2021. So if you want a more large vision about this problem, you can read this article. I wrote this in collaboration with Carlos Gadelha, who is a distinguished economist dedicated to economy for health. Pandemic exposed the global asymmetries. And I just like to highlight this image. This image is about asymmetric access in terms of vaccination during 21. It's data from our world data of the October 2021, and the vaccination for COVID-19 was begun almost 1 year before, and you see that 10 countries concentrate 75% of doses applied. The asymmetry in production capacity and science and technology was a key factor for this kind of result, and besides this, the capacity of the richer countries to concentrate and to bought the vaccines. So this map of asymmetric access is at the same time a map of asymmetric production and the asymmetric scientific and technological capacity, what reinforces, strengthens the need to policies and combined efforts among our countries, the role of TWAS just to face this kind of process. Another article that I would like to mention here is the article published in Nature in 2022 about the need of reboot biomedical R&D in the global public interest. I took part of this article. I was at that time president of Fiocruz, Oswaldo Cruz Foundation, the main institution for science, technology, and health in Brazil. And the idea was just to show inequalities, just to show the absence of sharing data and of the unbalanced relations, for instance, with South Africa that had so good role in terms of surveillance and identify variants, COVID-19 variants, and not fair process of achievement of vaccines and protection for the population. And the idea here is, at the same time, reinforce the need of policies for innovation in our countries. The idea to reorganize the priorities, think about sustainable aspects as the sustainable health systems. I think that we could think about some guidelines, just think about the so dramatic experience of COVID-19. First, continuously invest in science, technology, and innovation, and promote equity within the scientific field. Reorient research, technological development, and innovation activities in terms of the health system's needs. Decentralize the production of health goods, as vaccines, medicines, diagnostic tests. And you have this capacity in many of our countries. Strengthen health and social protection systems. Technologies should be understood within the broader framework of health systems. Strengthen global governance and the role of multilateralism. And so I think that the words of President Lula in the opening ceremony of this conference was very important in this sense. Promote interdisciplinary approaches to address increasingly complex challenges. Transform the paradigm of science communication and deepen the relationship between science and democracy. For this reason, Brazil organized for G20 very important health agreements. In Rio de Janeiro, in 2024, we had the Rio de Janeiro Declaration that highlighted the creation of the Coalition for Innovation and Local Vaccine Production as one of the main commitments. This coalition is, the coordination of this coalition is the role of the Brazilian Minister of Health, but at the same time it's important to mention that in South Africa in November, the idea of reinforcing the coalition is on the table, and I hope that this process could go ahead. And the second, a declaration on climate change, health, and equity emphasizes the One Health approach, linking human, animal, and environmental health. These two declarations, I think, that are milestones to thinking about how to strengthen our ties and reinforce this kind of perspective. At the same time, it's important to mention that in 2023, we organized in UNAIDS, the UN agency responsible for HIV programs and HIV access to drugs and the other technologies, the Global Council on Inequality, AIDS, and Pandemics. Some priorities were identified, and we will have just in November the launching of the report of this Global Council. Debt relief and restructuring for low and middle income countries. External debt pressure is an immediate challenge for many countries. A proposal is broader and faster restructuring measures adapted to national contexts to free fiscal space for health investments and pandemic preparedness. The second point is the new financial instruments for pandemics, creation or expansion of financing mechanisms for health emergencies. includes contingent credit lines, use of special drawing rights, and the strengthening of multilateral funds. Emphasis on sustainable, robust financial arrangements and not isolated initiatives. Local and regional production of health inputs. Priority for decentralized production of vaccines, medicines, and medical technologies, highlighted as a key G20 agenda item, as I had mentioned before. In this context, it's very important that scientific community and the TWAS has a central role in my thinking, just to follow the process of implementation of the pandemic agreement, or more agreement than treat. The agreement has some points that we could be engaged in, and I think that we should have contribution for this. One is the political engagement and global inclusivity. Improve the equity in access to quality medical countermeasures. Establish principles, priorities, and targets. Sharing of monitoring data, genetic data, samples, technology, and their associated benefits. Here, the controversy about sharing the benefits and sharing data and sharing benefits at the same time is one key point, and I think, again, that TWAS and scientific community should have a very important role in this process. Strengthening national, regional, and global resilience to and capacities to tackle future pandemics. And at least one health approach that connects the health of humans, animals, and the planet. In Brazil, the President Lula organized a board for go ahead in this one health approach with the participation of many ministries. It's important to mention that the pandemic really increases the wealth of the wealthiest 1% all over the world, and that science and technology could have a very special role just to reducing this process. This is an image of Pocli, that is the Angelus Novus, the new angels. This image was used by the historian and philosopher Walter Benjamin just to think about how to face the future and how to transform the future. The idea here is that the image of a linear progress doesn't make sense in a world where the war was marked very highly the societies. I think that this image could inspire ourselves to think about a new future with the commitment of science and technology just directed for public health interests and needs, and at the same time to facing a future with very strong cooperation among the countries of Global South. Thank you very much.
Our next distinguished speaker is Professor Salim Abdul Karim, or as he wants to be called, the Slim.
Thank you very much, Professors Nada and Al-Mumim. It's a great pleasure to be here with you this morning to share with you some thoughts on the health challenges we're facing in the Global South. And I'm going to focus particularly on the issue of the role of science and the role of research in addressing the high impact and the high burden of disease in the global south. So we are well aware that the world has been going through the dual transitions, the demographic transition on the one hand, and with it the epidemiological transition on the other. And countries across the globe are at various stages of these different transitions. So those who are on the left-hand side of it are those countries that are still very early in this transition, where they are now dealing largely with still high birth rates and large numbers of communicable diseases, whereas those on the right-hand side are now a more advanced stage of their demographic transition. Low birth rates, aging populations, more diseases of chronic diseases, diseases of longevity. So within the context of that epidemiologic and demographic transition, let's just look at the difference between the global burden of disease. So this comes from the Lancet. It's an analysis done up to the year 2019, so it excludes COVID. If we look at the upper block, that's the block that looks at North America, so that's Canada and the US. What you see is that most of the blocks are blue in color. Blue in color in that these are diseases, or these are the chronic diseases, diseases that occur largely in aging populations. The green represents violence, it represents injury, and red represents infectious diseases. So you can see infectious diseases in North America is a very small block on the top right-hand corner. Now compare that to the whole of Africa. When you look at the whole of Africa, the dominant block is in red. And that is dealing with illnesses that are largely due to infections, diarrhea, malaria, HIV, lower respiratory tract infections. And you can see slowly the blue block is growing as the transition occurs, and we see an increasing number of chronic diseases. So this is a huge difference in what we are seeing in the burden of disease between countries in the global north and countries in the global south. And what that has translated to is the challenge of a very high burden of disease. So this analysis, which lists the various countries in terms of their percentage contribution to the burden of disease in the whole world, you can see that for the different blocks that we are dealing with here, we are dealing with countries that are largely in the global south that carry the highest burden of disease: India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Congo, Indonesia, Ethiopia, South Africa, and so on. And within each of these countries, the contributions of the different conditions are making each of these graphs, each of these lines, larger. So what we're seeing is that for each color, you're seeing what is the percentage contribution that each of these illnesses are making to the burden of disease. So in the global south, we are dealing with a higher burden of disease, and we are dealing with a burden of disease that is skewed towards infectious diseases. So what do we do about that? I'm going to use one example, and I'm allowed to use an example that comes from the president of TWAS, because I happen to know her. Now, in using this example, I thought I will illustrate one challenge that we face in the global south. So this is the challenge that we're facing in HIV. HIV contributes a huge burden of disease in Africa. If you take in South Africa, we have roughly about 8 million people living with HIV. That's about 12% of the population. Very high burden of disease. And that applies to many countries in Southern Africa. In order to understand this problem and to deal with it, we need evidence, we need science, we need data. So this was a study that was undertaken by Croatia and her team, and it looks at grade 9 and 10 students, high school students, in one rural district in South Africa. And what you can see in terms of the available data, the prevalence of HIV ranges from about 1% to about 1.8% in these boys. So these are schoolboys, and ranging from below 15 years to about 20 years, that's the prevalence of HIV in boys. But look at the prevalence in girls. Drastically different. Already by age 15, 2.6% of the girls have HIV infection, and by the time they reach the age of 20, you're talking about 1 out of every 4 girls has HIV in this community. There's a drastic difference between these boys and these girls. It does not take a person to be a fellow of TWAS to figure out that these girls are not getting HIV from these boys. They're getting it from somewhere else. So where are they getting it from? Well, research that Croatia's team undertook, where she sequenced thousands of viruses from the same community and looked at the phylogenetic patterns, linking clusters of infections and understanding who is infecting who, she unraveled the cycle of HIV transmission. This cycle of HIV transmission occurs with high rates of HIV in young girls. These young girls get infected, and by the time they reach the age of around 30, have very high prevalence of HIV. And it's at that age, around the early 30s, late 20s, that these young women are now trying to find their lifetime partners and are now infecting men in their 30s. So the young boys don't have the infection. It is the men in the late 20s, early 30s that have these high rates of infection. And it's those men, 39% of whom are having a liaison with a teenage girl that's spreading the virus. So it's these men in their 30s that are infecting teenage girls. These teenage girls have high rates of infections. They grow up. When they reach their 30s, they sleep with men in their 30s who then infect the next group of teenage girls, and so on, and that's how the cycle is driving. Now, if boys and girls of the same age only slept with each other, the epidemic would burn itself out. In other words, you would use up the susceptibles. But where you have this cycle of transmission, you have a never-ending supply of young girls. And so that's why we have such a huge epidemic and such a huge burden of HIV, because we have such high rates of infection. So understanding the cycle of transmission was key to understanding what we need to do and where we need to intervene. How key was it? Well, shortly after the paper was published in The Lancet, within about 3 months, UNAIDS released this report called the Life Cycle Approach to HIV. And what you can see in their report, they took Croatia's complicated diagram and they made it into a very simple diagram with orange and blue, basically showing the cycle of transmission. How young girls get infected, and as they get older, they then pass it on to men who then infect the next group of teenage girls. As soon as this report was released, it was adopted by several countries in Africa. In fact, within South Africa, our own strategic plan lists breaking the cycle of transmission as its #1 objective. And what we've seen now repeatedly, people have taken the UNAIDS diagram and they've changed it. And you can see here in South Africa how they've now made it red and black, and they've called it infection pathway. I think we need to patent our diagrams because it's getting changed so much. But what's important is that as it's getting changed, people are taking ownership of it, and they are now acting on the evidence. So what is the upshot of my point? The upshot of my point is we are dealing with a burden of disease. We need to undertake research and generate the evidence and the science And we need to translate that science into policy and make sure that that policy gets implemented in practice if we are to change that burden of disease. And to just highlight the importance of science in addressing the burden of disease in the global south, I'm actually wearing my favorite science tie. You can see, just to make the point, science, here we are.
Our third distinguished speaker is Professor George Cao from the Chinese Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be here as a panelist to discuss something about the health challenges in South. So instead, I want to touch the challenges for both the South and beyond, the North as well. As we are in the AI era, we have the trouble, we have the challenges, we have the risk. It's much more than we thought, the health issue. So why it's so important? This Chinese word we call it Weiji. It means crisis and chance. So, we are talking too much about crisis. We need to think about what kind of chance we should grasp. So where are we now in the AI era? So we are in an era lack of the truth. Think about it, we have a hot war, cold war at the moment. We all have a tariff war. War is everywhere. So this is why, but you don't have the truth. If you have everybody keep telling the truth, I don't think we would have any war. But this is where we are now. So this is why for any professional sitting here as a TWAS member or affiliates, so rumors for any professionals, it's very easy for you to recognize. It's disinformation, if misinformation, also easier. The problem is it's a mixture of correct information and the wrong information, rumors, misinformation, everything together form a new causative agent, inference. It's very difficult for you to recognize which one is right, which one is correct, which one is wrong, which one is a rumor, which one, I don't know, whatsoever. So this is where we are in this 21st century. Remind everybody sitting here, the World Health Organization established in 1948. Then they defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. At the moment, we are talking a lot about physical health, but we ignored a lot about mental and social well-being. So this year mentioned about global governance. Global governance and the pandemic treaty, can you believe it? Even in the 21st century, everybody have to sit in the office of WHO to discuss about the pandemic treaty. Pandemic or any virus is a problem for everybody. We still need a treaty from the so-called government. Can you believe it? Where are we for the global governance? And Salim mentioned about global burden of disease, GBOD. That is a very serious problem, talking something about the HIV in young girls and young boys. So though that's a problem, but the problem we don't have any vaccine, biological weapons for HIV. What we can only do to do the scientific education, I call that was a social vaccine. That's the only way we can do. So this is why we have to touch more than physical health. So look at this cartoon. You understand what that cartoon means. We were filled with a lot of universe. We were infected with the universe. So this is why, think about AI. Though you think AI help us for a lot, but AI also give us, fill our brain with so many disinformation, misinformation. So that really has something to do with the social governance, with global governance. And Nishia mentioned there. And also, this is the AI would help us to do a lot of things for, the city brain. This is what was practiced in China, in Hangzhou city. And also the disadvantage of the problem is rumors. All this can be exaggerated by the AI. This is a good example. Think about, how can someone want to kill the others? We have to live together. That's the word we didn't think about it. This, I don't think I need to explain anything. Those two pictures tells you where we are now. Now, WHO mentioned about disease X, they meant about this, monkeypox or, flu or corona. But I'm calling it the euphorus. It's another kind of a virus, it's a social disease. So virus do not need a visa. Euphorus also do not need a visa. So they traveled everywhere. Remind you, the fake public health emergency of international concern for the 21st century, starting with pandemic in 2009, we are still in a state of monkeypox, fake event at the moment. So the second time the WHO claimed in 2024, but we are still in the fake state in the whole world. So remind you, when we had this pandemic, people think, where's the virus from? So I was advised, don't go to USA. Maybe the Congress, the Senate, they want me to go there because as a former Director General of China CDC, want me to say, where's the virus from? I would ask everybody sitting here, where the virus from? I don't know, but you might know. Tell me where it is. But the problem is, before the pandemic, on October 18th, 2019, look, 2019 October, I was invited for Johns Hopkins table exercise event. They call it event 2-1. We have a pretended viral disease called coronavirus-associated pulmonary syndrome, CAPS. So we know if we have another pandemic, it might be flu or corona. For any professionals, if you are working in the virus field, in the public health, it's a virus, flu or corona. But for all those, they created so many euphoroses, they think it's man-made. So this is, where was there? I was sitting with the lady, Amram Hines, who was the deputy director of CIA, US CIA. And she was when Obama's administration. And she was the chairperson for the National Intelligence Council with the Biden administration. They thought, okay, China CDC Director General, and with this lady sitting together, they are doing some conspiracy. They might create some viruses. Can you believe it? So this is the whole story. Then we have the monkeypox rumors in the social media. Oh, this man, everybody recognize him, right? He made up the monkeypox virus. So this is why in the AI era, it's so important to prevent and control the infodemics. The infodemic is so serious. More importantly, we are talking about AI. AI still, you remember, AIA, it means artificial. Eventually, those computer guys, information scientists, they are pushing so hard, eventually the AI, A will be alien. We cannot control anymore. It's not artificial. You cannot touch by your hand or your toe. So it will be controlled by alien. So AI eventually will be alien intelligence. This is why I think physical health is important. Why I think the physical or any biological viruses are important. Social viruses are getting more and more important. This is the euphorus. So this is why I want to address here today. So cut a long story short, think about what's all these infections, and by the end, we have a new field of epidemiology called infodemiology. So the euphorus is like the biological virus. They have a source of infection. They have a transmission route. They have a suspected population. Like the ant, the young, the kids. They were not well educated. They were not educated. They just think they would believe everything if you told them. And the elderly, they retired. They have nothing to do. They just touch. They have all these videos from TikTok, all this stuff. And they think, they believe everything. So those two populations is very serious, to be honest. This is why you have to take it very seriously. So this is why I wrote something, infodemiology, the science studying infodemic euphorus. In the journal I made when I was in China CDC, a direct journal called China CDC Weekly. It's a MMW-like journal in China. I named the euphorus. Euphorus is a word, I give the name. I named it, it's a causative agent of infodemic. And then we wrote a lot of things, and at the moment I'm doing a lot of work for this in China. So why biological vaccine exists and social vaccine are still insufficient. So this is why we need another type of the vaccine. Epidemiology, first, look at all this, what happened in 2009, 2015, 2014, it's related to this. And WHO, in the early 2020, the pandemic, they had the first WHO conference called First WHO Epidemiology Conference. You can go check all this. This is academic, public health, rumors, cause so many problems everywhere. And also, so much conspiracy theory, and also the manipulation of public opinions. Well, as I said, now it's AI. Eventually, it will be alien. Once it's alien, we cannot control anymore. So, global governance or social governance, communication studies, sociology, psychology, computer science, everything is related to this. So virus, information plus virus. This is the word I made it. So it's just information plus virus as a virus. So transmission mechanism of virus, like as I said, it's like any biological virus or bacteria. It's like the same thing. Also a lot of stories at the moment. If you go and read it, it's already there. Virus you can also have an outbreak for the virus. This is why someone is building a lot of hatred. So this is, we really take it very seriously. This is why China, we have a law for infectious disease code. We also have a law for the public understanding of science. It's, an act. So what I would suggest, learning from this pandemic, we should seek the truth based on science. We should try to educate or to make the public understand of the science. We make sure the policies and politics, they would understand what we are doing. So by doing this, seeking truth by using science, and doing things by make the pragmatic decisions. So this is why in Chinese, I put this in the Chinese mean, but I want to explain to you. So by the end, this will be the mouse and Tom and Jerry story with the virus and human beings. But we didn't really realize this. So we will have another pandemic. We will have another outbreak. But the problem is the public didn't understand. So this is what I'm calling here. We have the challenges for South. We have the challenges for the North, for the whole world. So I would cite something from the book written by Yuval Harari. In his book, A Brief History of Humankind, he says, sapiens, is there anything more dangerous than dissatisfied and irresponsible gods who don't know what they want? And his recent book called Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI, he said, we have named ourselves Homo sapiens, the wise human, but it is debatable how well we have lived up to the name. Think about it. Are we wise enough? Are we really sapient? Think about it. The war, I'm reminding everybody, Cold War, Great War, Terrific War, X War, Y War, Z War. War is everywhere. So, last, I want to cite the great philosopher Bertrand Russell says, before, he left from this world, he was interviewed on the BBC. The BBC journalist asked, so Lord Russell, suppose this film would be seen by our future generation, like the Dead Sea Scroll 1,000 years' time. What would you say to our future descendants? Well, I should say two things. One, the first I should say is intellectual. For intellectual, I should say, whenever you are studying anything or considering any philosophy, ask solely yourself, what are the facts? The facts are the facts. As I said, we are living in the era without truth. That's the problem. And the second thing I should say is moral. For moral, I should say, love is wise, hatred is foolish. I think I will stop here. To do the social vaccine, I'm writing a lot of public understanding of science book. This is, I'll give you some examples. Some in Russian, English, French, some in, most of them, they are in Chinese. And also they are translated into many languages. I hope, hopefully, it will be soon in Portuguese in this country. I hope very soon. I'm helped to do a lot of arts and science. This is the sculpture. I helped to put it in China, in the campus, one of the campuses of the China Academy of Sciences. Welcome to visit us in Beijing. This is influenza virus. So it shows, how the virus looks like. This is influenza virus. It was erected in 2018 to commemorate the 1980 Spanish flu. So, it's before pandemic. We know the virus coming. Have another one, COVID, in China CDC. Another one in Shenzhen. Come visit us to see this sculpture. Thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Our last but not least, Professor Shalo Tordikulova, and she's the Vice President of the Academy of Sciences in the Republic of Uzbekistan.
Good morning, everybody, and I would like to thank the organizing committee to give me a chance to be among distinguished panelists today's morning. And this is like this, yes? For decades, the blueprint for global health for many nations has been that of consumers. We were at the end of a long and fragile supply chain, purchasing, distributing, and hoping that prices would be fair, that supplies would arrive, and that the next global crisis would not leave our people vulnerable. This was not a choice, but a default setting. In a world of technological asymmetry, a world where a single dose of the gene therapy can carry a price tag of over $4 million, where a year of cancer treatment can cost more than $150,000, and a full course of therapy for a drug-resistant infection can reach tens of thousands. These are not just numbers, they're barriers that lock our healthcare systems into a cycle of dependence and make sovereign health security a distant dream. The COVID-19 pandemic was the ultimate stress test of this model, and it failed. It exposed the profound risk of being a consumer in a moment of a global scarcity, where even access to basic diagnostics was a challenge. But today I am not here to describe a problem. I'm here to propose a new model, forged in the crucible of that crisis, a model that transforms a nation's role from a consumer to a creator. I will share the story of Uzbekistan journey, a journey that began with simple diagnostic test and is culminating in sovereign biotech ecosystem designed not just to respond to the next threat, but to invent the next solutions. Our journey began, as it did for many, with the urgent need for diagnostics. When COVID-19 first struck, developing countries faced a stark reality. Critical supplies like PCR test kits were scarce. In those early months, there were no approved therapeutics and vaccines, but also no rapid diagnostic tests, especially in developing countries. To fill this gap, our scientists rolled up their sleeves. Drawing an expertise in genomics, our team swiftly sequenced local coronavirus strains and created a domestic RT-PCR test kits based on those results. This locally developed kit was successfully put into production and widely used across Uzbekistan laboratories in short order. While many wealthier nations were still scrambling, we had our own test systems operational. This rapid innovation not only filled an urgent need, but also planted a seed of confidence that even in a low resource setting, we could innovate our way out of dependency. It was a powerful lesson in resilience. This was our first critical step out of consumer mindset. We stopped waiting for a test kit to arrive and created our own. It was a proof of concept that we would be creator, even under immense pressure. But diagnostics were just the beginning. The vaccine crisis demanded we level up our creation. By late 2020, it became clear that vaccines would be the decisive tool against COVID-19. Yet, the Global South was at risk of being left at the end of the line. Rather than wait passively, Uzbekistan proactively sought strategic partnership. The scientific dialogue we initiated with the Chinese Academy of Science Institute of Microbiology led to pivotal proposal to conduct large-scale phase 3 clinical trials in Uzbekistan for promoting recombinant protein vaccine developed by my colleague, Professor Gao, and it's my privilege to shake this stage today with the architect of such partnership with Professor George Gao. Launching a phase 3 clinical trial was not easy. It requires trust, regulatory agility, and countless long nights of preparation. Yet, through frank communication and scientific rigor, our team succeeded. But we knew that scientific rigor alone was not enough. We had to win public trust. At that time, I served as a Deputy Minister of Innovative Development, and me and the Minister, we get the first shots of this vaccine in Uzbekistan. After 10 days, Prime Minister of our country himself publicly received his injection. The results of this partnership have been nothing short of remarkable. The several months-long trial in Uzbekistan involved about 7,000 volunteers was completed successfully and showed the vaccine to be safe and effective. Uzbekistan became the first country to grant approval to this vaccine, as the name in Uzbekistan was ZF Uzvac 2001. We didn't just participate in vaccine research, we helped make vaccine history. Eventually, this vaccine would form the backbone of our national campaign, protecting millions of lives. And in Uzbekistan, 66% of our population, by the 42 million of doses vaccine, was vaccinated with this vaccine. And you see on the chart that the majority of our population received this vaccine. This vaccine story wasn't the end. It was just start to develop our new research platforms. Today, Uzbekistan is building a robust multi-platform vaccine development pipeline. We developed a vaccine called Renovac. It's also recombinant vaccine, protein-based vaccine, and it was developed entirely by our scientists at the Center for Advanced Technologies, where I am the director of this center. And we published it, our data in the Journal of Vaccines. But our innovation extends beyond traditional vaccines. We are also pioneering a platform for passive immunization using the Zifivax vaccine. In the world's first study, we vaccinated cows and goats and showed that their milk contains neutralizing antibodies against SARS-CoV-2. These immune milks, we produced it in Karakal, Pakistan, in Nukus region, by immunization the whole farm of cows, and it was on the shelf of our, in Uzbekistan and especially in Karakal, Pakistan region. Furthermore, we are investing in the future with our most innovative platform, Tomovac, a pioneering project to create an edible, plant-based vaccine by engineering tomato plant to produce a key viral antigen. This thought, it also was published in the scientific, both of these research was published in the scientific journals. And these platforms are the tangible assets of a creator nation. They are our sovereign toolkits allowing us to respond not just a single option, but with a portfolio of solutions tailored to the challenge. This is the power of moving from consumption to creator. The success of the collaboration on the vaccine development was a proof of concept. But for true health sovereignty, we needed to the next crucial component, the ability to produce it ourselves. This was our most ambitious leap, to build the first full-cycle biomanufacturing facility for recombinant proteins in Uzbekistan history. While the immediate driver was the ensure local production of the COVID-19 vaccine, we designed this facility with a broader vision. From the very beginning, we planned not just a vaccine factory, but a universal pilot platform. This government-owned center of excellence integrates the entire value chain, upstream, downstream, and full fill and finish line, with a fully automated sterile line capable to producing 5 million vials and pre-filled syringe per year. And you see, this is a number of purchasing from Ministry of Health, some cancer drugs, it's trastuzumab, rituximab, bevacizumab, and the actual prices. And now we are working on the dropping the price until the at least $100 per unit, and you see that we could provide to our Ministry of Health and Health System 3 times more drugs for the same price. This is the ultimate lesson from our pandemic experience. True resilience comes from building foundational platforms, not one-off solutions. We transformed a crisis-driven vaccine project into a permanent national capability. But we knew that a single factory, no matter how advanced, cannot achieve full sovereignty alone. True resilience requires an entire innovative biome. So today, this universal platform forms the beating heart of the new 190-hectare smart biopharma cluster. We are scaling our ambition from a platform to paradigm, an integrated ecosystem designed to fuse the entire value chain. From research to reality, we are localizing R&D centers, Genomics Institute, and academic labs alongside our manufacturing core. This ensures that discoveries made in Uzbek laboratories can be translated into therapies without delay. And there is a Central Asia Genomics Center with a biobank and gene bank. It would be a core for this whole cluster. And this cluster is an open platform for global and local partnership, creating powerful synergy between public capability and private sector innovation, educating the next generation. Now we're building the university and innovative clinic together with the Korean partners. This is the ultimate lesson from our pandemic experience. True resilience comes from building foundation platforms, not one-off solutions. We transformed a crisis-driven vaccine project into a permanent national capability. We started by creating the taste. We advanced by co-creating a vaccine. We built our own manufacturing platform to produce. And now we are scaling this into a full innovative ecosystem to invent. We have moved from the vulnerable end of the supply chain to the creative beginning of the value chain. The technological divide is not a permanent state. It is a challenge to be met with a new model. A model built not on dependency, but on sovereignty. Not on consumption, but on creation. This is our call for the global community and especially to the global south. Let us dare the build. Let us dare the collaborate as equals. Let us dare to claim our role not as consumer of global health solutions, but as active, sovereign creators of our shared health destiny. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we open, yes, it's working. Before we open for the floor for discussion, we would like to thank the 4 distinguished speakers and give you the opportunity, if you do have some questions among yourselves, and then we open to the public, to the floor, okay? Any questions among the 4 of you? Because you gave such a beautiful talks and in a very different approach to the topic and complementary approaches. So I would like to initially give you the opportunity if you have for any discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to pick up on the one issue that Professor Gao raised, which is that what we are witnessing at a global level, not just in the South, but across the entire globe, is a situation where we are dealing with deliberate disinformation as a mechanism to distract people from what is going on. So this is trying to create alternate realities, whether it's on, who made the viruses, or whether it's about, what's going on in the world. If we are to address the challenges of health, a key part of that has to be to promote the truth, and has to be to ensure that people have factual information. Otherwise, they'll end up not accepting vaccines for their children, not taking the correct treatments. We will start going backwards in terms of the gains we've made in health. And so I'd like to get some thoughts as to how might we take up this battle, given that social media is always one step ahead of us. Before we know it, the lies have already spread to millions of people, and the truth comes limping behind when it's too late. So just some thoughts on that would be helpful, if I can ask my fellow panelists to comment.
I think that's a very, very good question. This is why today, when I asked about the health challenge, I put this one as a challenge. So I think, I already present there. So you are right. At the moment, the rumors and the misinformation moves much faster than the truth. So in my opinion, we haven't got any measures or counter measures to fight back against this kind of euphoria or misinformation, difference, or even rumors. In my opinion, I would like to propose for any public health professionals, we should try to take this as our job. Usually whenever you have something comes out, say, oh, this is not my job, this journalists, this is politicians, this is, public, nothing to do with us. So as a public health workers, I would like to propose, let's do it, because we know, all these euphoria, they move like the antivirus bacteria, or, chronic diseases. They have, very similar way. So this is why we put this one as a new disciplinary field, to make it as a science. You theoretically, if you could, you just close down the social media, right? It's so easy, it's a close down, but you can't. Obviously you can't. So they said, let's put it as a science, to have the professionals to study, make sure it be aware by everybody, especially the professionals. Thank you. That's my comment.
Nizia?
I have a comment for this point and an additional point about all the presentations. I think that you have a common problem of trust in terms of science, in terms of political institutions, about institutions in general. So I think that it's very important to put together the problem of misinformation and the problem of how to restore the restoration of the confidence of people in science and political institutions and so on. I think that is a key point for democratic thought in our countries. And think about the experience of Brazil. We tried to develop many initiatives in the level of government. One of them was science with information, a platform, but I think that is not enough, because it's not only combat the misinformation, as you had pointed, but is just to try to reshape our way to communicate science. I think that is for scientists and as for educational institutions as a whole. It's not easy, because it's not an episodic problem. It is a project. And there is a sociologist, Jeffrey Alexander, that showed this very well in an article, Vociferation Against Illuminism. It's a very important point about this project. And I think that the TWAS and the Academy of Sciences in all the countries have a very important role, and I think that is part of the agenda. Another point that I think that is important, because everyone mentioned the impacts from COVID-19 pandemic, and I think that when you think, in my case, to reducing inequalities in terms of innovation, the science and technology, and health products and production that you had mentioned in your thoughts as well, I think that you have to have a criticism about some concept. One of them is neglect diseases, and Carlos Morel is the leader of one institution that put this in the core. Because, for instance, HIV/AIDS, we had in Brazil and with G20 a very strong discussion if HIV/AIDS should be part of the coalition for regional and local production as part of the agenda of G20. And I think that it's essential. You show this in the African example. But I think no, it's not a neglected disease. Our focus should be in neglected disease. So I think that there are some critical points that you have to put on the table just to go ahead in our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to add one simple thing, that we need to collaborate between South and South, as well as South and North, and collaboration between scientists, and to be more active on social media, and could prevent this, how you say, infodemic, and as well to fight with this inequality on the distribution and production of the biologicals in this world.
Well, thank you so much. I'll ask for the floor to stand up. One over there and there. 3, 4.
I just want to thank the presenters. I have something that we may need to think about, a question to say, who has influence in society in terms of information dissemination? I want to give an example of the COVID pandemic. In Africa, I think a lot of people were listening to religious leaders as opposed to what the scientists would be saying to take the vaccines. And if a preacher, if a pastor stands up there and say, do not take this vaccine, I mean, most of the people were listening to that. We also had footballers coming in, people who are non-scientific, talking about scientific issues, and these are the people that the society listens to. So how do we then amplify our voices so that we can be heard in the society? I think that is very critical, because as scientists, I think we do not have that much influence to the society. People listen to their leaders, be it religious leaders, be it those who are very influential to the society, in the society, even though they have very little knowledge about what they are talking about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Then I think we should take the one in here, this sir over there, and then you, and in here. Can you I think we should take 3 questions and then do another round. Okay, please.
Yes. My name is Mohamed Najim from the University of Bordeaux, and previously I worked also in Morocco. I have no question, but I have a comment. I want to comment the talk of Dr. Gao. I met Dr. Gao for the first time in 2012 or 13 in Tianjin, when he's been awarded by the President Hu Jintao. And in 2021, he was in front of the fire on the controversy, and he was very courageous, very, very. I remember that. There's many articles in the newspaper, and the French journal Le Monde dedicate 2 or 3 pages about his personality. And I remember also that I wrote a comment to defend him. What I want to say, I have no comment, but just to tell him bravo. And there is another topic he raised. He said that we are in a Cold War. And in fact, this concept, I will talk about him this afternoon, and why, and the root of the AI, and the root of the AI are from the Cold War. So that can explain many things that happened today. No comment, just a comment.
Next, please. In here and in the back. Over there, he is standing, and one here in the front. I can't see.
Thank you. Very exciting discussion and thought-provoking. I have a few questions. As an academic and researcher, especially biologist, you introduced, Professor Gao, new discipline of science, infodemics, infodemics, or infodemiology, even social vaccine. If they are academic discipline, then we will publish, through the academic way, peer reviewing and sharing, as we have been doing in last 10 centuries. The truth is publishing like that way. But the social science, misinformation, lying, they are spreading without any peer review. With how people, trust more than the misinformation than the truth. We should critically think that issue. Only academic discipline and research cannot solve, and publishing what are the misinformation would impact the society. This is one comment. And actually, dissemination of lying is not new. Goebbelsism and many other things, in the history is there. I have one question to Professor Shahlo. Amazing, you showed the, your research excellence and impacting to the society for vaccine and others. As a biotechnologist, I want to know, when you develop edible vaccine using tomato, transformation of tomato or immunization of animals for milk to immunize the human, what are the challenges and in that area for scaling up for other countries? It is really a fascinating, I think, research discovery. But in reality, how it can happen in the global south. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll ask people to really be brief. We have one over there, one in here, and 2 in here, and then we need to end up because we have an next meeting to next section. Okay, coffee break. We can stand 10 minutes into the coffee break, okay? Thank you. Over there, please.
Thank you for those excellent presentations, the insights that we got. I am Shubho Chakrabarti from India, and I just want to expand very quickly, as the chairperson has said, on three very important challenges that we face in the Global South. One is, while we have this war against vaccines, war against non-communicable diseases, war against other forms of chronic diseases, there is also a need to kind of have a kind of collaboration between the partners. Who are these partners? The partners are the stakeholders. These are the health system. These are the local administrations. These are the nurses, etc. So we also need to have that partner, and that is also a challenge sometimes, because the ownership against a particular disease or against a particular condition often becomes a problem. And the second thing I would like to address is that often there are, even if there are facilities, there are barriers to uptake of services. And these inherent barriers are often due to the value systems, the distinctions between traditional and modern medicines. So this uptake of services also has, the barriers to the uptake of services also creates challenges. And lastly, in cases of diseases that are kind of long-standing, in a public health model, providing a long-standing support is also a major challenge in the Global South. Thank you.
Professor Chowdhury.
Here. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, the two of you, and then in here.
Well,
and then the white shirt.
There are two very important problems. One is our species. Our species always has liked to believe in magic, fire, gods, etc. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that we are starting a new discipline here, which is sociological, scientific, I don't know, how to make the people understand to differentiate between one and another. And that is something that has to be investigated, because the problem was our species that we love magic, you know, so it's not easy, it's not trivial. Otherwise, this will be the end of our species. Thank you.
Hi. No, I'll be quick. I'm Ilan Shem from the Elsevier Foundation. This was a riveting panel, really fantastic. I'm just thinking of a really good example of an influence that you were talking about, Professor Gao, the Omicron variant, which I believe I'm getting this right, but it emerged first perhaps in South Africa, and South African experts and government immediately were very transparent about this and shared this widely. And there was this hysteria and backlash, and it was horrific. And at some point, the tide turned, at least in the mainstream media, which shows my age that I'm reading mainstream media. But where it really, what came out was that, you know, fantastic experts in South Africa who are being very responsible, sharing their work. So my question for Dr. Abdul Karim is, was there a moment when policymakers and experts such as yourself came together to mount a response? Because it was so horrific what happened, the nasty hysteria in forests that South Africa experienced in being transparent and sharing what was happening. Anyway, that was my perception, but I'm very interested in hearing.
Thank you very much. Truly fascinating and penetrating presentations. During COVID-19, we were made responsible as an observatory in 57 countries and 5 observer states of Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And we were just amazed to see the development took place in every country. You know, each nation was trying to do something, and she has presented so nicely the example of Uzbekistan. So you've seen, you know, development of respirators, ventilators, rapid test kits, surveillance tools, and all of it. But you see, what happened immediately after that was just 2 major failures, which is deep in my sadness. I must say that WHO has not only recognized many of these developments which took place. vaccines developed in Kazakhstan, vaccines developed in Iran and different places. They were just killed there because WHO has not really recognized them. Second was that national governments were absolutely failed to support these developments, which could have really transformed them from total dependency to self-reliance. And there was a great, great, great failure on both accounts.
Hi, this is Giriraj Chandak from India. So I have no comment, just a question, and that is to Professor Slim. Do you have an idea about the AIDS in the newborn, like as you mentioned that there were women who were getting in the age of 30, 35, planning for, life partner pregnancy. I wonder whether you have an idea about AIDS in the newborn.
Please, if you can address, just pick and choose now.
Thanks. I'll address two of the questions very quickly. The first is, one of the big problems and why HIV in young women is such a challenge is because it doesn't only affect them, it affects their unborn child as well. And many of them are still going to have few children. So that has become a big issue. In most of Africa, fortunately, the screening that we do in pregnant women has led to a situation where we have reached close to elimination of mother-to-child transmission. Now that, when you compare that to the year 2000, which is 25 years ago, the rate of transmission from mother to child was nearly about 1 out of 4. In other words, every fourth child born to an HIV-positive mother was themselves infected. Today, that percentage is well below 1%, and that's, again, a reflection of technology, of testing, of treatment, and of health services that are able to reach out and achieve high coverage. You raise such an interesting problem of Omicron because it highlights many of the issues. So when our team discovered Omicron, in fact, I remember the day so clearly that Professor Tulio de Oliveira, who happens to be a Brazilian, born in Brazil but lives and is South African, his center is 1 floor below mine. And he ran up the stairs, came to my office, "You have to come and see this, you have to come and see this." So I go down to his office, and on his screen, he's got the Omicron sequence. And I said, "Oh my goodness, are we looking at SARS-CoV-3 here? There are so many changes. It's hard to believe we're actually looking at the same virus." And so we decided straight away that we'll share this with the minister. We briefed the president. The president says, "Go public." And so the next morning when it was announced, what's the first thing that happens? Britain imposes a travel ban on 8 African countries. The US follows the day after. So for me, it highlighted the challenge that we're facing, and that we are trying to be truthful, we are trying to share what is important, but this is the backlash. But let me give you the positive side of that. When we announced it, I think that day I must have done over 20 interviews, just about everybody. BBC was there with cameras and everything. And a day or two later in the morning, I get this email from Richard Horton, the editor of The Lancet. And he says, "Slim, you everywhere. I saw you on Sky News last night, you were on BBC, on radio this morning. You got to write something for the journal. We got to share the factual information." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure what we can say," but Croatia and I met at about 10 a.m. that morning, and we said, "Okay, can we write something for The Lancet?" And so, okay, let's give it a shot. We put 2 statisticians to start analyzing the data, and we started writing. For those of you who don't know, our offices are next to each other, so it's very easy for us to collaborate. And by about 4 o'clock, the paper was written. We sent it off to the journal. Just before 5, they sent us a 1.5 pages of peer review comments. Now we're fixing the peer review. We submit it to the journal with all the revisions, just before 6. 6:30 that evening, our paper is live. The first paper published on Omicron. It's got over 1,000 citations within weeks. The importance of that lesson is that we have to find ways to ensure that the factual information, the scientifically valid information, has a mechanism to reach out. And it's going to reach out quickly. It can't wait for, a whole month before the whole paper gets in, and by then, the rumors have already long gone. So just making that point to both your questions. Thank you.
Well, I think that we face two big problems, in my opinion. One is the problem of the scientific and technological inequalities. And I think that when we think about scientific progress, for instance, think about HIV/AIDS, it doesn't imply better access. So how to put together scientific progress and progress in equity in access? In this sense, I think that sometimes we have improving in knowledge, and HIV, AIDS, and cancer as well are good example, but you need an agreement and to face the challenge of definition, a new strategic agenda for innovation in local terms and regional terms and global south terms, and production as well. And I think that this kind of problem we could share here. I think that's important to highlight the role played by civil society as well, because I think that both problems, the policies for reinforce equity and the problem of misinformation require us a common sharing agenda in our countries and in our scientific communities. I think that these challenges require the definition of a strategic agenda of commitments that reduce asymmetries between countries and consider the global vulnerability to face the unequal conditions of response to health emergencies and other health problems. So I think that you need interdisciplinary approaches, as you had mentioned before, and at the same time, we need policies in terms of the ministries of health, the agenda of G20 and the other kind of coalitions, just to put this idea really in movement and really to reinforce the scientific capacities of our countries, but think at the same time of the translation of these capacities in real policies for reducing this kind of inequalities.
Yeah, I have 3 more comments on the answers to the questions the audience asked. And the first one, I want to make a comment about, social science and, natural science, all this. So what I want to say, there's no such a disciplinary definition for any science. We only one piece of science. So one word, one science. The problem is because we have limited thinking, our mind. So we are not clever enough. We are not sapient. This is why, again, I want to call, we have to work together to share data, everything. Second comment about the, mother newborn transmission of HIV. In China, we have been doing very well. For, think about the population, think about when the early 80s, when the HIV went into China, the situation at that time, everybody thought that could be a very serious problem. Early 80s, the economy in China is not that great. I should say it's very bad, but everybody thought, HIV could be a serious problem. However, by the end, I think we have been doing very well. Especially, we have done a very good job for the mother-newborn transmission control. So that's a very good ability. A lot of publications, let's say there's many journals, you can go and read it, how China have done this. A third thing I want to say, Professor Karim mentioned about Omicron discovery. When you think about the appearance of Omicron, think about if you believe evolution. That's Charles Darwin's evolution. Think about it, with only 1.5 years, or at least about 2 years, you have so many mutations. Why you have so many mutations? That really, I do agree you. Looks like it's a SARS-CoV-3. It's totally different. From that sense, I think that's already the answer. Where's the virus from? So the origin of the virus. That's, naturally, you never know what it will happen. Omicron, also in my opinion, could be SARS-CoV-3. So that's my 3 more comments or answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to answer to your question about this immune milk. And this technology could be easily used for other type of vaccine for short-time immune response for the kids, for example. But the main issue, it should be recombinant vaccine. It should be protein vaccine, and then you can immunize the cows and get the milk, and the milk will have antibodies, which is work as a barrier for immune defense against some viruses or bacterial infection for some epidemics, and. I think it's a good approach to use this, and we recommend this immune milk during the COVID for kids because they could not be vaccinated, and for all elderly people who also didn't have a vaccine. Yeah, and thank you for comments, Mr. Vice President of TWAS, about the. We need to proceed, and this, the COVID shows to at least for our governments, for governments of countries of global South, that developing the biotech, local biotech, it's very important, and we can, and especially in Uzbekistan, we had a chance to have a fund to build a manufacturing facility, and now we're building this big ecosystem in the biopharma cluster. And it's important to have own facilities, own production, and not to be dependent from other countries for supplies of such drugs. Thank you.
So at the end of this session, that we reviewed several challenges. I would like to thank the panelists for the wealth of information that you gave us this morning, enlightening us about all the challenges from different aspects of the issue. I thank you all, and at the end, it is time for the good part. It's a coffee break. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, I am Giovanni Ortolani, and I serve as TWAS Public Information Officer. As many of you know, awards play a vital role in TWAS's mission to recognize excellence in science. Today, we will call on stage the recipients of the 2024 TWAS Awards, as well as the 2023 and 2024 TWAS Named Awards. This year, we invited awardees to record video lectures, creating a digital showcase to spotlight their work and make it accessible to all. You can watch these lectures on the TWAS YouTube channel, on our website, or simply by scanning the QR code displayed on screen. We will also unveil the name of the 2025 TWAS Named Awards recipients. But first, it is my pleasure to welcome on stage TWAS President, Professor Abdul Karim.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. Greetings, everyone. This is like a real highlight for me, how we do the awards, the named awards, and also subject category awards. So I just want to, for the benefit of the new TWAS fellows, remind you that if you have real stars and up-and-coming scientists who are making huge breakthroughs for each of the subject categories, you don't have to be a TWAS fellow to be recognized and be eligible for these subject category awards. These subject category awards are actually recognizing up-and-coming rising stars in our midst who are making huge strides and changes in terms of knowledge generation by subject category. So I want you all to keep a really close eye for this, because if you get this award, it's also a fast track to becoming a TWAS fellow. So you don't have to wait till you're 60 or 70 to be eligible. This is really another way of getting to becoming a TWAS fellow. So that's how special the contributions are for the initial set of subject category awards that we will be making. Then we will also present some of the named awards. And this is both for individuals receiving awards today, new TWAS fellows, and long-standing TWAS fellows, is that the named awards you will be hearing about is not because you were president of TWAS, not because you were VP of TWAS, that these are named awards. These are named awards that are fairly long-standing, and they are supported by TWAS fellows through endowments or through fixed-term funding that they provide for these named awards to be made. So each of these named awards you will hear has a particular theme. So somebody feels very strongly about climate change, so they create an award for climate change, and it's in their name. Someone else is very highly regarded, maybe a TWAS fellow by someone in industry, so they create the funds for that award to be made. So it is a bit of a mix, and you'll also hear later on about Apex awards we have. All of these awards are celebrating science, excellence, and innovation in service to humanity. And it's a real honor that we have so many categories, and we're filling gaps that exist in countries, but we are also looking at ways that TWAS fellows can be very actively involved in celebrating excellence and innovation. And so don't feel because you're a professor in a university that this is only named awards if you're like a big philanthropist and you have many millions. I think what it shows is that each of us, if we want to sponsor an award, have the possibility. If you feel very strongly about a subject area or a topic or a challenge facing your region or the world, and you think by creating a named award to fill that gap and recognize scientists making contributions, it becomes an important role model for others. It helps to put that topic area on the map and get attention to it. So it's really, these named awards are catalytic awards to really amplify, these are important issues, these are important gaps, these are important knowledge gaps, these are important diversity gaps or inclusivity gaps that need to be filled, and this is how we're doing it. So thank you very much, Giovanni.
Thank you, Professor Abdul Karim. We will now start by presenting the TWAS Awards. Each year, TWAS honors individual scientists from developing countries who have made outstanding contributions to knowledge in 9 fields. So now, without further ado, we will start calling on stage the recipients of the 2024 TWAS Awards. The recipients of the 2024 TWAS Award in Agricultural Science are Sunday Ekesi of Kenya for his impactful contributions to fruit fly management to facilitate growth in the horticulture industry in Africa. Congratulations, Professor Ekesi. And the other recipient is Cao Fang Ji of China for his discovery of the mechanism controlling the accumulation of essential and toxic elements in crops and the development of technical solutions to enhance food safety and improve nutrition. Congratulations again. The recipients of the 2024 TWAS Award in Biology are Zi Yifang of Taiwan, China, for her breakthrough research on the transport, signaling, and utilization efficacy of nitrate, which changed plant biology. Congratulations, Professor Tsai. And the other recipient is Raghavan Varadarajan of India for his contributions to understanding the relationship between protein sequence, structure, and stability, and its application to design immunogens that elicit protective antibodies against HIV-1, influenza, and SARS-CoV-2. Congratulations again. And the 2024 TWAS Award in Earth, Astronomy, and Space Sciences goes to Xu Xin of China for his fundamental contribution to the understanding of the evolutionary transition from dinosaurs to birds. Congratulations, Professor Xu. The 2024 TWAS Award in Engineering Sciences goes to Mohd Sapuan Salit of Malaysia for his contribution to the properties, conceptual design, and material selection of tropical natural fiber composites based on in-depth experimental and design-based investigations. Congratulations, Professor Salit. The 2024 TWAS Award in Physics goes to Andrew Forbes of South Africa for his seminal contributions in creating new forms of classical and quantum states of structured light, thereby advancing photonic-based applications and fundamental sciences. Congratulations, Professor Forbes. The 2024 TWAS Award in Social Sciences goes to Maria Cecilia de Souza Minayo of Brazil for her leadership in formulating and implementing Brazil's national policy for the reduction of accidents and violence and for advancing qualitative health research in the country. Congratulations, Professor de Souza Minayo. And congratulations to all the 2024 TWAS Award recipients. Your dedication inspires us all. Today, we also congratulate the recipient of the 2024 TWAS Siwei Cheng Award. With funding from the Siwei Cheng Foundation of the Educational Foundation of the University of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the award recognizes economic scientists who have been living and working in a developing country for at least 10 years. The recipient of the 2024 TWAS Siwei Cheng Award unfortunately could not be present today. Still, we can give him a round of applause to Cao Yanghui of China for her pioneering studies on the Chinese labor market and the economics of healthy aging. We now move on to the TWAS named awards. These awards are named after TWAS fellows who have chosen to establish a lasting legacy by creating a mechanism to recognize scientific excellence in specific fields. Each award includes a monetary prize and a certificate. Let's begin with the TWAS Mohammad Hamdan Award. Just before his passing, then Vice President Mohammad Hamdan made a generous endowment to TWAS, permanently linking his name to the Academy through this award. Presented every 2 years, the award recognizes outstanding mathematical work carried out by a scientist working and living in Africa or the Arab region. The recipient of the 2024 TWAS Mohammad Hamdan Award is Hichem Yengui of Tunisia for his significant contribution to mathematical research in Tunisia and his dedicated commitment to training the new generation of young mathematicians from Tunisia and sub-Saharan Africa. Congratulations, Professor Yengui. Let's now proceed with the annual TWAS Abdul Karim Award, which was established and funded by our President to honor women scientists from least developed African countries for their achievements in biological sciences. The recipient of the 2023 TWAS Abdul Karim Award is Santa Bamba Pakotogo of Burkina Faso for her contribution to the diagnosis and management of post-tuberculosis chronic pulmonary aspergillosis in a tuberculosis endemic area in Burkina Faso. Congratulations. And now I'm pleased to announce the recipient of the 2025 award, who unfortunately had to cancel her participation and is not with us in Rio today. Still, we can give a round of applause to Fatouma Mohamed Habdouf Latif of Djibouti for her pioneering research on natural substances with health and environmental applications and for her leadership in advancing STEM and international scientific collaborations in Djibouti. The annual Atta Ur-Rahman Award, now sponsored by the Cereal Company Limited, honors young researchers in chemistry from the science and technology lagging countries identified by TWAS. The recipient of the 2024 TWAS Atta Ur-Rahman Award is Bipin Dahal of Nepal for his contributions to the synthesis of carbon nanomaterials, including carbon quantum dots and their composites, for applications in energy conversion and storage, as well as addressing environmental issues. Congratulations, Prof. Dal. And now let's unveil the name of the recipient of the 2025 TWAS Atta Ur-Rahman Award, Gift Melana of Zimbabwe, for his contribution to the development of porous materials as support platforms for biological and chemical catalysts. Let's turn to the TWAS Samira Omar Innovation for Sustainability Award, generously provided by former TWAS Council member Samira Omar of Kuwait. The award recognizes the significant impact on the environment and biodiversity of scientists from least developed countries. The recipient of the 2024 Award for Innovation for Sustainability Award is Trista Prasha Noshi of Nepal for her pioneering work in improving drinking water quality, particularly in addressing arsenic contamination of groundwater in Nepal. And now let's announce the name of the 2025 award recipient. Adey Felekadesta of Ethiopia, for an innovative work in safeguarding water environments from contamination, generating data that inform decision-making and advancing Sustainable Development Goal 6, clean water and sanitation. The annual Faiza Al-Kharafi Award recognizes human scientists from science and technology-lagging countries identified by TWAS. It is generously funded by Professors Al-Kharafi and rotates among various fields of science. This year, it will be awarded in the field of medical sciences. I am happy to announce that the recipient of the 2025 Faiza Al-Kharafi Award is Angelina Mechwizige Katsuga of Uganda for her research on neurodevelopmental disorders, particularly epilepsy, cerebral palsy, and nodding syndrome, and for advancing policy and research mentorship, as well as local community intervention to enhance children's health. Now we will pass to the 2025 TWAS CAS Young Scientist Award for Frontier Science. This annual award recognizes scientific achievements by young scientists living and working in a developing country. This year, the award recognizes achievement in the physical sciences, including physics and chemistry. Unfortunately, the recipient could not join here today. Still, we will announce his name. The recipient of the 2025 CAS TWAS Young Scientist Award for Frontier Science is Krishna Bishwash of India for pioneering research in inorganic solid-state chemistry, developing new metal calcogenates compounds with outstanding thermoelectric performance. And this was the last recipient for today. The scientists we honor today, they exemplify an extraordinary commitment to excellence in research. And more often than not, it is the people of the Global South who benefit most directly from their work. I now invite all award recipients to join us on stage for a group photo, and Professor Davidovich, we kindly ask you to join us on stage as well. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the TWAS APEC Award, one of the Academy's most prestigious honors, celebrating exceptional scientific achievement in the developing world. In 2025, the award focused on quantum science and technology, recognizing outstanding contribution to this rapidly advancing field. With this, TWAS proudly joins the global celebration of the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology declared by the United Nations General Assembly in June 2024, which UNESCO serving as the lead agency. The International Year commemorates a century of foundational development in quantum mechanics. Professor Abu Karim, now the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hao. This year, we have a very unusual situation. Yesterday, we announced the TWAS Medal Award recipients, and we mentioned that one of the recipients of the TWAS Medal will not be delivering his lecture or being recognized at that time. Today, we have a very unique situation, a situation where the recipient of this very prestigious TWAS Apex Award is also the recipient of the TWAS Medal Award. So, so in addition to recognizing Louise, it gives me great pleasure to announce that the recipient of both the TWAS Apex Award and the TWAS Medal Lecture is none other than Louise Davidovich. Before I call Prof. Davidovich to the stage, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about him. Firstly, he was elected as a TWAS Fellow in 2002. Most of us know him. He's well recognized internationally as a fine and one of the best science scholars we have. He was born in Brazil. He earned his PhD in the United States. And after working as an assistant professor in Switzerland, he returned to his home country, Brazil, to pursue his extensive and influential scientific career, collaborating with colleagues at his university in Brazil and internationally with groups in France, Germany, and the United States, amongst others. Davidovich has also been actively involved in TWAS for many years. In 2001, he received the TWAS Prize for Physics. So remember, just before this award ceremony, before these awards were being handed out, I said to you, we have these subject category awards. So already in 2001, he was so outstanding that he was recognized with the TWAS Prize in Physics. He was elected in 2002 as a TWAS Fellow, and during the TWAS General Meeting in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 2012, he co-organized a symposium on quantum information and quantum computing with 2012 TWAS Fellow Zhan Wei-Pan, a professor at the University of Science and Technology of China. He served as the TWAS Secretary General from 2019 to 2022. In 2010, he received Brazil's Top Science Award from the Brazilian National Research Council, and he served as president of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences from 2016 to 2022. As Professor Howe mentioned, that this is the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, as declared by the United Nations General Assembly in June 2024. Now, when the jury met to decide who will be the recipient of this Apex Award, in recognizing also the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, this was the citation that was provided when the decision was made. And I quote, Professor Davidovich, for his contributions to theoretical advances and groundbreaking experiments in quantum optics and quantum information, and for his worldwide leadership in the area of quantum science, close quotes. And I think that really captures so well his role both as a leading scientist in the space, but also his role as a science leader. So I think that's worthy of applause, don't you think? So Professor Davidovich's scientific contributions relate to key areas of quantum technology, such as quantum computing, sensing, and communication. His research has enhanced the understanding of how quantum mechanical systems interact with their environments, which is essential for evaluating the resilience of quantum devices exposed to noise and for clarifying fundamental questions about the emergence of the everyday world from quantum principles. So we need an example of the utility of what he's doing. There it is in our everyday lives. We congratulate TWAS Fellow Professor Davidovich, not only for his high-impact research in this field, but also for his commitment to ensuring his research benefits everyone, every way. Today, quantum science and technology are becoming deeply embedded into everyday life. They power computers, solar panels, smartphones, medical tools such as lasers and MRI machines, advanced materials, GPS systems, and even precision agriculture. These quantum sensors that focused on his recent work also show significant potential for environmental and health monitoring, and they can detect underground water and oil reserves and enhance medical diagnostics. Thank you very much. All of this is towards ensuring broad access to these technologies, essential for closing the gap between wealthier and less developed countries. For less developed nations, this requires both collaboration among themselves and training skilled professionals, as well as fostering innovative industries capable of developing technologies suited to local needs, thereby reducing reliance on foreign suppliers, especially in an era of increasing export restrictions. Please join me on stage, Professor Davidovich. For the Apex Award, we have a medal and we have a certificate, and we're going to do that first, and then we're going to move on to the medal award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now I invite Professor Davidovich to present his lecture. Besides, I would add a comment that he's a renowned, very well-known scientist in the world. Besides Brazilian Academy of Science and TWAS, he also member of number of Academy of Science, including United States National Academy of Science, European Academy of Science, and Chinese Academy of Science. So today, he presents a lecture entitled, his lecture, which is included in the official celebration of the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, which recognizes 100 years since initial development of the quantum mechanics. The lecture is titled 100 Years of Quantum Mechanics, from Fundamental Science to Technological Breakthrough. In this talk, Professor Davidovich will revise the foundation of quantum mechanics and trace its evolution over the past century, from groundbreaking theoretical insight to transformative technology. He will explore current application in quantum computing, sensing, and communication, and reflect on the role of the Brazilian science in advancing both fundamental research and innovation. Drawing from his own contribution to the field, Professor Davidovich will also discuss the opportunity and challenge ahead as the quantum science continue to shape the future of technology, society, and our understanding of the physical world. After the presentation, we will open the floor for short Q&A, but now, Professor Davidovich, the floor is yours. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really touched by this honor, and I'm trying to control my emotions. I hope I'll succeed. The first step was successful. You know, I call this, I have my computer there, and I call this the plug and pray system. Not the plug and pray, because it worked all right, so I'm happy now. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank President Quraish Abdul Karim for this huge honor. She was also the chair of the jury that chose me as for this prize. So I would like to also acknowledge the presence here of the dear members of the board of TWAS and of the council of TWAS, the dear members of the staff of TWAS, whom I had the pleasure of live with when I was president when I was Secretary General of TWAS. I would also like to acknowledge the presence here of my dear friend and president of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, Helena Nader, and from dear colleagues and staff from the Brazilian Academy of Sciences here present. Dear fellows of TWAS, dear friends, dear family, they are around here. So, on behalf of President Quraish Abdul Karim, I would like to sincerely thank the Council for awarding me the medal and the jury for the Apex Award for bestowing me the TWAS Apex Award. I am truly grateful for this recognition. I'm also deeply grateful to my former students and collaborators, including my thesis advisor, Moisés Nussensweig, who left us, and from whom I have learned so much. Their dedication of Moisés and from the former students and collaborators have inspired me to work hard and to embrace the excitement of science. But I also wish to thank my family, who just in the opposite direction, always reminding me of the importance of balance and have kept me from working too much. Thank you very much for it. I wish to express my gratitude to the Brazilian government agencies that have supported my research and that of my students. And they are mentioned there. It's CNPq, CAPES, the State of Rio de Janeiro Foundation, FAPERJ, and Finep, who is there and who has also contributed to this conference. Before starting my presentation, I just want to tell you just one more thing about my previous life in Brazil and my graduation. In fact, after the first semester of my master's, I was expelled from the university. Can you believe it? That was at the time of the military dictatorship in Brazil. And with colleagues of mine, I would go to the streets to fight for democracy and against dictatorship. So after the first semester of my master's degree, I was expelled from the university under the decree of the military dictatorship, which barred students in that situation from attending any university for 3 years. Isn't that the perversity? So thanks to my teachers at that point, my professors, I was able to go to the United States and go to the University of Rochester and follow my studies in physics. So I'd like now to start this presentation. Let's see if that works. Oh yes, that works too. And you know, those things moving in the center is just to stimulate your curiosity, okay? But I'll tell you about that later. Now, just before starting on the theme of this talk, I would like to pay tribute to Jacob Pallis, a dear friend, a great scientist, and a tireless advocate for science in Brazil and in the world, who left us this year. And I also would like to pay a tribute to Moisés Nussensweig, my thesis advisor, also a great scientist and tireless advocate for science, who welcomed me at the University of Rochester when I had to flee from Brazil, guided me as my PhD advisor, and taught me the very first steps in research. That being said, I will just start my presentation and tell you why 2025 is the International Year of Science and of Quantum Science and Technologies. It started with a hay fever, you know? It all started with a hay fever, a severe hay fever that attacked that young guy there, Werner Heisenberg. He was 23 years old then, and the only way for him to escape from that hay fever was to go to this island, Heligoland. It was a pollen-free German island, and there he had two things that would be very good for him. First, it was good for his hay fever. Second, he did not have to go to any meetings. He did not have any people asking him to do things. He was by himself there. And isn't that the dream of a scientist? You know, he could think. He could think. And since he could think, he wrote his groundbreaking paper on quantum theory. Now, in the beginning of the 20th century, there were these three guys who were also very fundamental. Max Planck, in 1900, he solved mathematically the problem of the spectrum of radiation emitted by a heated body. You know, the classical physics did not understand why heated bodies go from red to blue as the temperature increases. And Planck had a way to solve this problem mathematically. And he made a daring hypothesis. The daring hypothesis was that the energy emitted by these bodies is not continuous, but exists in discrete packets, which are called quanta. And then came Einstein in 1905, and he also made another daring hypothesis for the photoelectric effect, which the classical physics could not explain either. And he proposed that in some experiments, light behaves as if it were made up of particles, which are named photons by chemist Gilbert Lewis in 1926. You see, chemists also had an important role there. And you see this sentence here, I stressed it, this part of the sentence, because it shows the prudence of Einstein in assuming that light would behave as composed of particles. And why was he so afraid of actually saying that it was like that? I'll tell you in a moment. And then there was Niels Bohr in 1913 with his atomic model by which electrons orbit a central nucleus in specific fixed energy paths called orbits or shells, analogous to planets orbiting the sun. So these three contributions are fundamental for what follows. In fact, that was the inauguration of quantum physics. Now, why was Einstein so prudent? Well, you know, waves interfere. You know, this is a water tank, and you have a pin oscillating there. And you see the waves coming out of that pin. Now imagine that you have two pins in the water tank. Here they are. Each pin emits waves, and you see here very clearly the interference of waves. There are rays here, which are the places where the wave coming from one pin goes in the negative sign with respect to the wave that came from the other pin, so they annul themselves, they cancel themselves. That's negative interference, and here is positive interference. So waves interfere. And in fact, in the beginning of the 19th century, this fantastic scientist, Thomas Young, showed experimentally that light emitted from a source that passes through a screen with two slits and produces, it goes to another screen, produces bright and dark fringes, which are like what we saw in the waves, in the waterways, regions where the two beams cancel each other. And this interference effect we call nowadays as an evidence of coherence between the two beams. Okay, so coherence is related to interference. So Einstein knew about it, everybody knew about it, so how come Einstein comes with that idea that, you know, You don't have waves, you have particles. How come particles interfere? So he was prudent. He said, as if. But he was not the only one to find that daring hypothesis. In fact, in 1913, there was a proposal nominating Einstein to the Prussian Academy of Sciences, signed by Max Planck and other scientists. And look at what they say in that proposal. That he may have sometimes missed the mark in his speculations. For instance, in his light quantum hypothesis cannot really be held against him, for it is not possible to introduce truly new ideas, even in the most exact sciences, without at times taking a risk. So in spite of his ideas, he was elected to the Prussian Academy of Sciences. Now, the question of light, and I'm stressing that because later I'm going to tell you about my work, and my work was very much involved with light and photons. Okay? So I just want to tell you some story of this branch of science. Now, in 1924, Einstein published a paper for the general public in this newspaper, Berliner Tageblatt. And another example that Einstein gave to us, we should publish articles in newspapers for the general public. Now, there he says, so now there are two theories of light, both indispensable and as must be admitted today, despite 20 years of tremendous effort on the part of theoretical physicists without any logical connection. Now, from this sentence, you realize that science is not really neutral to emotions, right? So the emotions are clearly present in scientific research. Now, to make things even more complex, in 1924, Louis de Broglie extended the wave-particle duality to subatomic particles, such as electrons. So electrons also can have a wave behavior. And that was in his PhD thesis in 1924. You know, just a small, a little history, and I hope that is discounted from my time, because it's just a history. And, you know, the advisor of de Broglie was Langevin, Paul Langevin, fantastic scientist. And Langevin got that thesis and he thought, come on, this is kind, you know, should he get his PhD? So he sent his thesis, this thesis to Einstein. And the comment of Einstein was, well, you know, this is quite interesting. So de Broglie got his PhD after this comment by Einstein. Okay. But again, a very daring proposal. Now, and then we come back to Heisenberg in his Pacific island of Heligoland. Now, on July 9th, 1925, Heisenberg wrote to Pauli, Wolfgang Pauli, an amazing scientist, an amazing physicist also at that time. And he wrote that all my miserable efforts, some emotions here, right? All my miserable efforts are devoted to completely killing the concept of orbits, which cannot be observed anyway. Now, this was a decisive break with classical mechanics. Heisenberg built a theory that was based only on things that could be observed, and orbits could not be observed. And that was the basis of his theory. That was July of 1925. At the end of July, Heisenberg publishes his paper, famous paper. The English translation is Quantum Theoretical Reinterpretation of Kinematic and Mechanical Relations. And that changed physics, and that changed our world, as we are going to see soon. In the same year, end of the year, Schrödinger told people about another theory, which was a wave theory of matter. And in fact, he was inspired by de Broglie, but he was a good mathematician, so he wrote an equation for the waves. You have waves, you should have an equation. So he wrote an equation for the waves. And his article was published in this magazine. It is the Annales de Physique in January of 1926. In the beginning, there was a fight. Heisenberg told, come on, this makes no sense. And Schrödinger say, come on, what Heisenberg said makes no sense. But then people realized that the two theories were equivalent to each other, okay? Now, but still, the worry of Einstein was still in place, you know. How can you justify this? There are two theories, wave theory, particle theory, and there is no logical connection between them. And the logical connection was established in this paper by Max Born in 1926. You know, just think about those times, you know, 1924, 1925, 1926. What amazing times. You know. Now, in this paper, Max Born makes the proposal that the famous wave of de Broglie and of Schrödinger actually was related to the probability of an electron being in some position in space. But then when he got the proofs of the paper, he thought a little bit more, and then he wrote his footnote, addition in proof, more careful consideration shows that the probability is proportional to the square of the quantity, not to the wave itself. Okay? And because of this footnote, Max Born got the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1954. And the citation is for his fundamental research in quantum mechanics, especially for his statistical interpretation of the wave function. Einstein hated that nature should have a probability basic. And in fact, what Einstein was searching was for a deterministic theory for nature, not probabilistic theory for nature. Now, nowadays, you know, we can do experiments, amazing experiments, that clarify these ideas. And what you see here is a picture produced in 1993 by these physicists here in the IBM's Almaden Research Center. And what this shows is the wave-like nature of electrons revealed in this image. You see ripples on a copper surface. That's a copper surface. You have here a ring of iron atoms that confine the electrons within what one calls a quantum coral. And this image was captured by using a scanning tunneling microscope, but it shows many things. You see, this is like the waves you'd see in a lake if you throw a stone in the middle. So these are the famous waves of de Broglie and Schrödinger. And also you see these interference effects here when these waves just go through this iron coral here. This also shows something that, again, disturbed people at the time, that, you know, electrons, they are therefore described by waves, but more than that, they are delocalized. You know, you cannot say that the electron is here or here or here. The wave function of the electron is distributed over all this plane, okay? And therefore, the electron is not localized. But then this brings some problem, and this problem was very dear to me. I was involved in this. And the problem is this, you know, I look at you, and you are localized. I don't see any of you delocalized, staying at 2 points at the same time. You are localized. No. Why? In the macroscopic world, things are localized, while in the microscopic world, they are not. And in fact, now we know that that's compatible with quantum mechanics, the classical world in this sense. And we know that the coherence is the key. That has to do with the interference of the environment. Some process that makes quantum computers turn classical for the anguish and the anxiety of Google, IBM, and so forth, okay? So noise destroys quantum effects. So the dynamics of the coherence is related to the elusive boundary between quantum and classical worlds. Now, I started to get interested in that in my PhD thesis which was supervised by Moisés Nussenzweig, and that was on the decay of an excited atom, which means that the atom is in contact with the environment, and therefore it decays. Okay? Now, also wrote this review article, if you want, on this whole thing, the direction from quantum to classical, which involves Schrödinger cats, entanglement, the coherence, and so forth. Okay? But this is a kind of review of the situation in these fields. Now, I told you about Einstein, Heisenberg, Born, all the heroes of the beginning of quantum mechanics, but there are many more. And this is just an example. These are all the young people. Well, Max Planck was 42 years old. From my point of view, he was very young. So young people who discovered quantum mechanics in the beginning of the 20th century. Now, you immediately see that there are only two women here. Marie Curie was not really in quantum mechanics. She was in radioactivity, but she interacted with these people a lot. And Emmy Noether, at the time, he was really not very much quoted because she was a woman. But Einstein had lots of respect for her. He considered her one of the great scientists of all times. And you can read a little bit about her in this book. Look at the title, Einstein's Tutor. That's her. Okay? So that was the situation at that time. And in fact, the great scientists of that time had a meeting in 1927. Remember, Heisenberg, 1925. Max Born, 1926. So 1 year after that, they have this great meeting in the Solvay conference to try to understand what was going on. And again, if you look at this picture, just one woman here. That was the situation at that time. I wonder if they would ever imagine that some years after that, women would be presidents of the World Academy of Sciences, of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, of the Brazilian Association for the Advancement of Science, and from the United States National Academy of Science. They would never imagine that, right? Now, it's interesting to know that the driving forces for these people here were curiosity, passion for knowledge, and dreams. Because as you well know, scientists dream. They dream day and night, day and night. I have to be careful when I talk with someone. In the beginning, actually I was applying this to Solange, but she, very clever, she immediately realized that, what I call the code. The person tells you something, you say, and then Solange would ask me, what have I just said? And so, but that's it, we dream day and night. Now, it's interesting that from this curiosity, this passion, and these dreams, emerged the world we have now. In fact, their dreams changed the world. And that's something that quantum technology gave us. From laser with lots of applications in medicine, CPU of computers with the transistors, magnetic resonance showing the whole brain, the dynamics of the whole brain, several applications of lasers, diodes, solar sun panels, also very important, new drugs, atomic clocks with uncertainty of less than 1 second in the lifetime of the universe. And that's very important for the GPS. The GPS needs precise clocks and much more. So that came from the ideas of those young guys who did not have any idea about possible applications of what they are doing. Here in Brazil, there are two examples, nice examples. There is this photodynamic therapy, also based on quantum physics, which was developed in the University of São Paulo in São Carlos by the group of Vanderlei Bagnato. And this is for skin cancer. And what is great is that it's not available, it's now available to the public health system in Brazil. Okay? So it's for free for people. Another example, is this equipment, portable equipment of Embrapa, and made by Embrapa in an agro startup that create. Anyways, that's the sentence is not really, which analyzes large-scale soil for agriculture. So that's for precise agriculture, okay? So again, that was produced by Embrapa in a startup. Now, at the end of the 20th century, new surprises. We thought everything was okay, solid, and then new things emerged. And this is the picture I had at the beginning. I promised to you that I would explain that, so there it comes. Now, these are 7 ions which are trapped in an electromagnetic trap. And you can control these ions with laser fields. In fact, this is not a simulation. This is a movie. And what you're saying here is you see in the ions, and you can see them because they reflect laser light that incides on them. So you can control the movement of these ions. This is what one calls center of mass motion, but you can also produce this kind of motion. You can do it precisely, and you can control the interaction between one ion and the other one, and then you start to perceive that that could be interesting for computing, right? Making connections and transporting quantum information from one side to the other. And then, for his work on trapped ions, David Wineland got the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2012. And then there was quantum electrodynamics in cavity, amazing, 2 mirrors, the best mirrors in the world, 5 centimeters apart. And then you send an atom. I don't know if you saw it. It took me the whole day to produce this animation, so you'd better pay attention. Okay, there, you see. So you send an atom to the mirrors, and this atom interacts with a single photon, which is trapped inside. And that single photon is trapped for a fraction of a second, taking into account the speed of light and the 5 centimeters distance between the mirrors. What the trajectory of the photon is equivalent, almost equivalent to the equator of the Earth. It's there during that time. And then you can control the interaction of the single atom with a single photon. And lots of things come out of that. And we're very lucky to collaborate with Serge Haroche's group, who got, together with David Wineland, the Nobel Prize in 2012. And this has been also an important part of my scientific research. In contact with them, they were doing experiments on this. I was working on the theory. And these are some of the papers produced there, sometimes with some curious titles, like teleportation of an atomic state between 2 cavities, and things like that. And I should say that these 2 papers in special, this is called the second quantum revolution, which is the possibility of being very precise about the interaction between a single atom and a single photon. Now, these 2 papers here were theoretical papers made in connection with the group of Serge Haroche, and they were very important in an experiment made by that group, which I'm not going to detail there, but also has some funny title, the experiment on Schrödinger cats. A Schrödinger cat produced in the lab and discovered in the lab and analyzed in the lab. So this was fun, and I was having lots of fun with this collaboration. Now, another point which was very important for this new quantum physics, for new quantum technologies, was the phenomenon of entanglement, which was discussed by Schrödinger in 1935. And it means the following. It means that in quantum physics, in the quantum world, you can have correlations between particles that go beyond the predictions of classical physics. And in fact, in this case, the individual state of each system cannot be known, only the global states as a whole. Thank you. Very strange, and in fact, it was very strange also for the guys who discovered entanglement. One of them was Schrödinger, that wrote in this paper, this is the reason that knowledge of the individual systems can decline to the scantiest, even zero, while that of the combined system remains continually maximal. Best possible knowledge of a whole does not include best possible knowledge of its parts, and that is what keeps coming back to haunt us. Okay? And I should say that the phenomenon of entanglement still haunts physicists nowadays. In several labs around the world, in Brazil as well, that was done also in our group at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, entangled states of photons are produced by sending an ultraviolet light beam through a crystal, and then from the crystal emerge two other beams besides the beam that goes through the medium, two other beams in the infrared region. And these two beams, so for each photon that comes in, two photons emerge, and these two photons are entangled. And I'm just going to give you an idea of what it is. So that's the idea. Under certain conditions, these photons have orthogonal polarizations. A photon can have, light can be polarized, and a photon can be polarized as well. So they could be like that or like that. They're orthogonal polarizations, but I don't know if they're like this or like this. So you know the global thing, orthogonal polarizations, but you don't know, you don't have any idea whether this photon, the polarization of this photon is like that or like that. Complete ignorance about the polarization of each photon, but a global information, namely that the two polarizations are orthogonal. Okay, now, we got interested in our group at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro on the fragility of entanglement. In fact, entanglement is a major ingredient of quantum computers nowadays, and the environment makes the entanglement be fragile. Okay? Noise destroys entanglement. So we made theoretical predictions and some nice experiments in our lab at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro on the fragility of entanglement, again, with some curious title, environment-induced sudden death of entanglement. And what happens is that while an atom may decay continuously so that it asymptotically it goes to the ground state, for an entanglement can end abruptly. And that's what people call sudden death of entanglement. And of course, this was bad news for quantum computation. That means also that quantum computers must have all the ingredients in a very low temperature, close to absolute zero, okay? Just to avoid the noise. And this is a review that was made with two previous students of mine, now professors, on the open system dynamics of entanglement, for those who are interested in reading about this whole thing. So that was one point that we decided to investigate, and these are the people who collaborated with this dynamics of entanglement research. Here are students at that time, but now they are professors, okay, in different institutions. Andrea was a postdoc from Mexico. In red here, you have the two heroes from the lab, okay? Collaborators there at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Souto Ribeiro and Stephen Walborn. Okay? They did experiments. They built the lab, actually, the quantum optics lab. And then in blue, we have foreign collaborators from other countries, Daniel Cavalcante, Antonio Assin, both from, at the time, from Spain, Joe Eberly and his postdoc, Xiao Feng Kan, from the University of Rochester. Now for the new technologies, okay? And for the new change of life that we might have in the near future. These are the basic roadmap for quantum technologies. That picture I took from this paper here, that's the European community view of the roadmap. And you see what we have now. You have these 4 columns here that show the 4 main ingredients of these new quantum technologies: communication, computation, simulation, sensing, and metrology. These columns are prepassed by engineering and control, software theory, and education training. And of course, they're supported in some very strong support of basic science. Okay? So that's the picture nowadays. Now, I'm going to tell you about these things, especially about sensing and metrology, which has been my area of research recently. Now, the whole thing stands on the idea of a quantum bit. You know, a bit, you know what it is, 0 or 1, and you can encode things and transmit messages as a sequence of zeros and 1. A quantum bit is like a vector that is not just a pointing up or down. It can be pointing on any direction on a sphere, and that's a quantum bit. From that picture, you can imagine that, come on, if I use quantum bits, maybe I can do better than just using something that can have only 2 values. Now, what are physical qubits? I told you that photons can have polarizations, remember? Horizontal, vertical polarization. Light can be polarized, and light is constituted by photons. So, and we can consider the polarization of a photon as a classical bit. So horizontal is 0, vertical is 1. Okay? Now, of course, the polarization does not have to be just horizontal and vertical. It could be in any direction. And that would be not a bit, but a quantum bit, a qubit. Okay? The polarization in any direction. And that polarization, we can think of a superposition of 0 and 1, of horizontal and vertical polarization. So that's the idea for photons. We can also think about the spin of an electron. It's associated classically to the rotation of a body, is the spin. And electrons have spin. And again, the spin can be in any direction, and these spins can be used as qubits for quantum computers. So what about quantum sensing? For me, quantum sensing is the area of quantum technologies that's more promising nowadays. In fact, there are companies selling quantum metrology devices. Some examples are here. Now we have magnetic sensors for brain imaging. They can sensor magnetic fields with a precision of 10 to the minus 11 Gauss. Now the magnetic field on the surface of the Earth is of the order of half a Gauss. Okay? So that's an amazing precision, and that provides some magnetoencephalograms, which are extremely precise. These are small objects that you put around the brain of someone. You don't have to have low temperatures. It's just the temperatures around. Quantum gravimeters are being sold now. They have a precision of 10 to the minus 9 multiplied by the acceleration of gravity at the surface of Earth. Now, these quantum gravimeters are sensitive to variations in the gravity due to underground water and oil. So you can discover water and oil without making holes, okay? Just measuring the gravitation. Furthermore, with this precision, you can even find things made by old civilizations because it's so sensitive that with the variation of gravity, you can map what is inside under the soil. Quantum accelerometers are being developed, started with one in the Imperial College and tested by the Royal Navy. It's a big thing here, but it has been compressed to small sizes. And nowadays, you have quantum inertial instruments, which are being now tested by the United States Space Force. They want to use that for autonomous navigation on space plane mission when you don't have GPS. So you use these instruments that measure the acceleration at each time, and by integrating the acceleration, you know where the thing is. Okay? So that's another possibility, which is now being used. And atomic clocks, which I mentioned before, with some uncertainty of this order here. This is 10 to the minus 19 of the second. It's amazing. Okay? It's more than useful for GPS, but it's now very useful also for some new experiments in many labs. Now, we have worked on these things. These are some sample of some papers we have published on that, and always, of course, in company of very good people. Bruno Escher was my PhD student. Ruinê Matos Filho, he's a professor at the Federal University. I think with Ruinê we have made more than 15 papers together. Okay, it's a very nice collaborator. And this is just some example. And this is a more recent paper made together with people at Texas University, Girish Agrawal, which maybe you may know. And that's a collaboration with Texas University. Now, I would like to show you some pictures again. And these are the people at the Federal University who have been involved theoretically and experimentally with quantum metrology. These are my theoretical fellows here. Nissim was my teacher of quantum physics in my first semester of the master's degree before I was expelled from the university. Okay? And I was very sorry that I was missing the second part of his course, and I think he was very sorry also of losing a student. And now he has become a fantastic collaborator. Ruinê Matos Filho, I told you about that. Fabrício Toscano came from Argentina, is a professor there also. And these three, of course, are experimentalists. Here is Steve, Gabriel, and Gabriela. It's not a requirement for our group to have a name starting with Gabriel, okay? But anyway, so they're very useful too. And the collaboration has been done also at Collège de France with the group of Serge Haroche on quantum metrology and with the group of Girish Agarwal at the University of Texas. So, science today is more than ever a collective endeavor. And what I'm telling you was a collective effort. And it's very important to realize that. Now, what about quantum communication? Well, I don't want to remember a very bad soccer game between Brazil and Germany. It was 7-1. But, in quantum communications, the Chinese are 10-1. 10-1. And this is an example. This is a satellite. The leader of this experiment was Jean Veipin, which was mentioned by Quaresha in that seminar we organized together in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. And that's the Chinese satellite. It emits pairs of entangled photons in space. Can you imagine the precision for that? It's a fragile thing. And so they emit these pairs, and these pairs allow quantum communication between 2 points of the Earth's surface. Okay? And quantum communication is protected against spies. And you can understand why, because, spies have to interrupt the beam to listen to what's done, but quantum mechanics is very fragile to interruptions. And therefore, if someone spies, they can know that they spied because that changes the beam. Okay? Now, so that's Jean Veipin, great guy, and the leader of this effort. Quantum computing, I'm just going to give you some news about it, but I'm not going to go into detail. You see, this is from December of 2024. Now, just be careful about the headlines, because all these companies have stocks. They will go to the stock market. So you should take it with a grain of salt, okay? But things are evolving, and they're evolving very fast, much faster than what many people predicted 10 years ago. So this was Google, and they unveiled an experimental machine capable of tasks that a traditional supercomputer could not master in 10 septillion years. This is older than the universe, okay? So what that can be applied to? Well, many things, including drugs. This is IBM. IBM just made a quantum computing breakthrough. That's from September 26. 1 week ago. 1 week ago. And HSBC is the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation. And they show that quantum computers can improve a process involved in algorithm bond trading. Okay, so stock market and things like that. And these are the companies that are associated with IBM in this endeavor in order to produce a useful quantum computer that can solve real problems for the world. And this is also a new result from June 9, 2025. Christopher Moro, he has been in Brazil. He was a scientist at NIST in Boulder, a student of David Wineland, who got the Nobel Prize in 2012. And now he has his company. And his company is called IonQ. Remember those ions being controlled? Now they are doing quantum computing. And this sentence is interesting. It says that we are turning months into days, said the CEO of the company. And in computational drug discovery, turning months into days can save lives. And it is going to change the world. Okay? So these are new things that are coming out. So it's a very active field, and things advance very quickly. And that's the quantum computing market map. That's a small sample of that. Okay? And you see it's a very diverse market. Look, AstraZeneca here for drugs, and many other things. You have automobile industry willing to have good batteries, for instance, and things like that. Lots of collaborations there for new technologies. And now I finished just tell you about Brazil. We had for many years this National Institute for Science and Technology for Quantum Information. The whole thing started in 2009, but it was preceded by a Millennium Institute that started in 2001, and I coordinated it, actually. Okay? So this allowed the formation of people. From that, many new scientists came up. We had 120 principal investigators, 26 institutions in all countries, more than 700 theses and dissertations produced, 200 PhD students formed, so it was a great thing. It finished now. There was a new call, and this institute was really actually broken into parts because it was very difficult to administer 120 principal investigators. So now I'm part of an institute. The title is National Institute for Science and Technology, not for quantum information anymore, but for quantum devices. Okay? So we're looking at applications. That's a big change. Okay? These are some Brazilian startups. We have startups in software, especially. Okay? And there is a problem there because if they want to test the software, they have to go some quantum computer in another place. So if you want to have some discretion, not to announce what you are going to do, that's complicated, okay? But anyway, so these are some of the startups, and there are even 2 banks here, big banks, that have small groups working on quantum computation. They don't know if it's going to work or not, but they don't want to be put behind, okay? To stay behind. Now, bad news, and I'm sorry that that's one of my last slides. I hate to finish a presentation with bad news, but this is something we should think about. And in order for you to give value to this news, I had to tell you everything I told you up to now. Now, in September 2024, still Biden's government, the United States government puts export controls on quantum computers. They could only control not just the quantum computers, but even parts of quantum technologies to partner countries. No country in Latin America is a partner country. No country, in Europe you have some countries, you have also Japan, Australia, and I think maybe South Korea, I don't remember. That's it. That's it. Okay? And then there was this nice piece in New Scientist. And it's very interesting because they say multiple nations enact mysterious export controls on quantum computers. Why mysterious? Well, they explained here. It's identical wording, placing limits on the export of quantum computers in several countries. Identical wording. So come on, they had a meeting before. They had a meeting before. Okay? So that is the situation now, and that's very serious. That's very serious. Okay? In the health session this morning, I took note of this sentence. Very nice sentence. The person from, well, I forgot who mentioned that, but anyway, sorry for that. William Ford Gibson, he's a writer, science fiction writer. He's also known as a noir prophet of cybernetics. Okay? Now, and he has this sentence, the future is already here. And you have seen that indeed the future is already here. It's extremely entangled with the present now. It's very difficult to say what is present and what is future. But it is just not evenly distributed. Okay? And that has to do with TWAS. And that has to do with the work of TWAS. This inequality between countries in a field which promised to be very important for the future. I was going to say for humanity, but of course that depends on who uses it. Okay? So, would be very bad too. Okay? Now, Abdul Salam said that scientific thought and its creation is the common and shared heritage of mankind. Fantastic sentence, as many sentences that he said. And of course, what I showed you before is against that, And we should find, for making this concrete, that scientific thoughts and its creation is common and shared in a shared heritage of humanity. And I thank you for your attention. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Professor Luis Davidovich, for your wonderful lecture. And now the time for Q&A section. Please.
A very fascinating lecture. Really inspired very much. You initially mentioned quantum computing and quantum science can be utilized in precision agriculture or in biology. Some example you have shown, drug discovery. The way we are getting the biological data, genomics data, codes of life, how quantum computing can be utilized for translating biological codes for the biotechnological innovation. I'm not expert in quantum science, but as a biologist, I'm very curious to know it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, you know, this question could be translated as actually to the question of making new drugs, right? It's, you have the data, and how do you get new drugs for that? And of course, one way of doing is a random way. You combine this data, you combine molecules until you get something useful. Okay? Classical computers can do that. And there are people who are doing that with classical computers. Actually, people from chemistry and biology can tell you that better than I can. But quantum computers can do this random process much faster than a classical computer. And the reason for that is related to this extension of the wave function that I mentioned, right? A particle can be in several places at the same time. So quantum computers, if properly programmed and if the hardware is proper, can explore different ways at the same time, okay? using the superposition of beams or states, the coherence and the interference between them. Okay? So it applies to precision agriculture, of course. It applies for drugs also. New discovery of new drugs, even discovery of new materials, which now classical computers are doing that. They try several things. Okay? And you have some conditions for that you would like to have in the new materials, and then the classical computers go and see if they can produce a material that is happy with those conditions. Quantum computer can do that much faster, in principle. They are not doing that yet, but it's advancing in a very fast way, so who knows? Good.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, very, very fascinating talk. And my typical question is with regard to the quantum technology, and you already said there are 120 PI group in Brazil. So with respect to Brazil, the quantum technology activity, what is the status in terms of whether quantum computer or quantum sensing or any other sub-area? If you can kindly give some light on that.
Status in Brazil or in the world?
In the Brazil.
In Brazil, yeah. If you think about these technologies, of course, if you think about the theoretical work and the experimental work in universities, you have this in several places, okay? We have some very good groups working on these things, including quantum metrology, including quantum communication. I don't know if you had the opportunity of watching, of being around the Guanabara Bay, this big bay. On one side of it, you have the Federal University Fluminense. It's on the other. It's in the city of Niterói. On this side, you have the Brazilian Center for Physical Research, and then the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, the Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro. Now, they have quantum communication through the air between the other side of the bay and CBPF. And from CBPF, the information goes through fibers to the Catholic University and the Federal University. So we have that in Rio. We have that in the Northeast and also in São Paulo. Experiments are being made with new ideas about how to do quantum communication. Okay? Now, quantum metrology, not yet. I don't know of any company in Brazil doing that. Okay? Quantum computing, yeah, people are doing software for quantum computing. There is a tiny quantum computer at CBPF, this Brazilian Center for Physical Research here in Rio de Janeiro, which is just for training, okay, and that's it. So we are behind in quantum computers. The problem is that quantum computers are very expensive to do, but not only that, they need very special people, not just physicists, but engineers. Google imported an excellent engineer from Germany in order to build the quantum computer. So we need to educate people. We need in this area. In the United States, you have, I know a guy at MIT, very good guy, and he says that he's an engineer. In fact, he says right there, I am a quantum mechanical engineer. Okay? And his department, he's the head of the department, is called Department of Quantum Mechanical Engineering. Okay? So, people are opening their eyes, and I think we should do that too. Okay? Now, teaching on quantum information is being done now in Brazil. There are even some startups that do that, and in some universities that's being done, Federal University, University in São Paulo, and so forth. Okay, so but my judgment is that it's like that. Quantum communication, we are there, we're behind the Chinese. Quantum computation and quantum metrology, we have ways to go. Okay? We have ways to go, but of course we are worried about that. There is now a financing from the Ministry of Science and Technology, $1 billion for up to 2034, okay, therefore for 10 years. And then the FAPESP, which is the agency in São Paulo, also is putting $1 billion up to 2034 in quantum technologies. Okay? It's okay to start, but compared with what we have in other countries, it's nothing. In China, it's $15 billion, what they are doing now in 1 year. I mean, that's the amount of things they are doing. United States, less than that. So there is much to go. And of course, if you can collaborate with other countries, that helps a lot. Because there are many areas that can be explored, and it would be very interesting to have different countries exploring different areas, and especially the countries that cannot get now quantum computer parts or quantum technology parts from the United States and from other countries, because also Europe is complex, should cooperate with them, among themselves. And I think that's our secret here. Cooperation and trying to complement the things that are done in several countries. Otherwise, it will be very difficult.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much for that fascinating talk. It has been your research has been quite successful. Your applications are plenty, there are investments, and people can see the applications right now. But I suspect when you were starting out, there would have been criticisms of you doing research that was esoteric when Brazil was facing poverty and all kinds of things. Did you face that kind of hostility towards this kind of research, and how did you resolve it?
Okay, very good, very good, very good. Of course, we are worried about that. In fact, many Brazilian scientists deal with this situation in several ways. In fact, Helena Nader is an example. The Brazilian Academy of Sciences has been very effective and played a very big role in analyzing and calling attention to the situation in Brazil. I mean, it is a country with a huge inequality, and we have to take care of that. There are millions of brains that cannot be used because of this inequality in the hills of Rio de Janeiro, the outskirts of São Paulo, the cities in the Northeast. They could be here, maybe, but they cannot. They cannot because they don't have opportunities for that. So if you are a scientist in a country like Brazil, you should worry about that. We should worry about that, call the attention of the government and the public about that. Now, about exotic science. This exotic science gets transformed into very useful science very soon. It leads to new drugs. Someone in the health session this morning mentioned that, there are many illnesses now that require drugs that cost millions of dollars, and we have to buy those in other countries. So it is like that. We need exotic science because exotic science will give these countries the possibility of producing their own drugs using the material they have. I mean, I am a physicist, but I call the attention of the government to the role of biodiversity, not just in Brazil, but in many countries here. Come on. What do we have that other countries in the north don't have because they have destroyed it? We have a huge biodiversity. Brazil has about 20% of the world biodiversity. We should explore that in a sustainable way, and we should call it social biodiversity because there are people in the Amazon that should profit from that should be involved in that, and not just to work as slaves for big companies. So, there is a roadmap here, and we should follow this roadmap. And I do believe that science should be made at a very high level in our countries, in several fields, but always paying attention to the economic situation, the social situation in our countries, which is, in many cases, very, very bad. I don't know if I answered your question, but the idea is this. Let us have the good drugs, the good medicine. Let us have the good batteries, the good energies that are being that are coming from labs all over the world. We should have the right to work on that and to create our own technology. You know, that's called, many years ago, innovation moved by prohibition. Now we have the prohibition, and that should stimulate innovation in our countries.
Okay, because the lack of the time, we should stop the QA section here. Thank you very much, Professor David
Thank you very
for
much.
your wonderful lecture and also the answer. And congratulations again to the award to you. Yeah. So I would make some comment that the TWAS APEC Award regarded as the Nobel Prize of the Global South. So it's a very high honor to Professor David. So the money prize is 100,000 US dollar plus medal and lecture and certification, as you already see. Yeah. So now, before the closing ceremony, I, in name of the TWAS president, I invite everybody in this lecture hall to come to have a group photo, please.
A group photo.
So I know that everyone is getting ready to be leaving. There's a lot of things going on. But what a wonderful way to conclude 4 days of really exciting deliberations. We've really done a lot. So before I go in any further, another round of applause for Professor Davidovich. And it's now Elena and my pleasant task to bring this meeting to a close. It doesn't actually close because there are 2 other skills building workshops straight after this, just as a reminder. But we've had 4 wonderful days in Rio, and some of us came earlier, some of us will be staying on to enjoy Rio even more. And Elena, I can't see you, so come right here. There are many people we need to thank. This meeting has been the first meeting in several years. We are delighted that so many of you were able to travel long distances and short distances to be here with us, to join us in this historic moment. But, you know, the smooth transfers from the airport, the arrangements before we even arrived, the wonderful audiovisual support, all the logistical support we've had. This is almost a huge village, or couple villages that's assembled here. And for everything to run as smoothly as it has, takes leadership and a large team of people. So it goes without saying that we have to acknowledge the contributions and leadership of our host, the Brazilian Academy of Science, and under President Helena Nader. Both Elena and I would also like to acknowledge and recognize the staff from TWAS that have worked tirelessly at the Secretariat there. And I'd like to call them up on stage so you can see who each of them are. And let me start with Marcelo Noble, Giovanni Ottolani, Pael, Vanessa, Sean, Antonella, Christina, and still long distance, Sandra, Ravelico, and Francesca. Thank you so much. We'd like to have the staff from the Brazilian Academy of Science who have also been working very closely with the TWAS Secretariat. And I'd like to call on Gabriela, Fernando, Deborah and Vito.
Where are they?
Where are they? Gabriela, Fernando, Deborah, and Vito, please join us. Okay, will you bring it? Will you arrange between? Okay. And then we'd also like to call on key staff from the Eberly Company. There have been many of the staff here, but in particular, we'd like to call on Daniela, Juliana, and Tiara.
Maybe I'll sing in the meantime.
This is a really token of an appreciation to the teams, the TWAS team here represented, and of course the Brazilian Academy of Science. They were great partners. They did a wonderful job. We would like to thank all the effort to have us here, and I'm really glad I know that probably some biased information, but I only received good feedback from this meeting. So I think that we managed together with all this wonderful team to make an excellent job. And I would like to just give this to Helena, the name of the TWAS team, to the Brazilian Academy of Science team. Thank you very much. Everyone here probably already made a conference, and you know the work it is. So thank you very much for all the team. Thank you again.
So I'm not going to try and summarize the 4 days that we've had, but it's been really amazing to have our opening session addressed by His Excellency President Lula. And I think he set the tone in his opening address in terms of this unprecedented moment that we meet, the challenges that face us, and how we, as a very privileged community of scientists, forward-looking and strong and privileged members, are going to deal with this situation that ensures that we continue to move forward taking all of humanity with us. So that was really quite an amazing opening address, together with others who joined us, including the Vice President of Guatemala and other distinguished speakers that we've had. We've had some amazingly inspiring and rich scientific discussions through presentations. We've also had some incredible opportunities to network with old friends and also make new friends. But we also know that in this moment that we gather, with the rise of authoritarianism, with the threats that face us, our very existence, that in many times in history, this is not a new event. Luis spoke about in his presentation of being expelled as a young student from university and having to go elsewhere to complete his education. We mentioned in celebrating the 40 years of TWAS that Abdul Salam himself was in exile and seeking opportunities. And I think if we had to go around the room, there will be many similar stories like that of scientists who were first activists, who were part of speaking truth to power, who stood up, who did not think that they were alone in taking on these battles, who regardless stood up sometimes alone, stood up sometimes in groups, and sometimes in solidarity across the globe. And this is something really important, because dictators and bullies, they succeed not because of what they say and they do, but they succeed because of self-censorship, that individuals in these communities who witness this choose to rather feed that ogre, in the words of Sass Cooper, rather than stand up and have their voices heard and counted. So long as we continue to stand up for truth, so long as we stand up for the dignity of all human beings, and people from the South are not any less valued, any less human beings, or any less deserving of dignity and respect and the possibility and potential to reach their full potential. So when we met in the general meeting, we agreed that in this moment where truth and science that is embodied in that search for truth and ongoing quest is really under threat. And we agreed we will refine the declaration that was shared at the general meeting. That declaration has now been finalized and is live at the TWAS website. So you can read it there, and you can feel free to share that with other TWAS members or other scientists across the globe in terms of the declaration coming out of Rio from people who attended virtually or in person. We also agreed at this meeting that the situation in Gaza is exceptional. And just over the last 24 hours, we've seen how global citizens in the flotillas trying to get aid to people where food security has been weaponized, where movement has been restricted, and the hostages who were used to start and initiate this 2-year onslaught, almost 2 years in a few days' time, that has been an opportunity to raise an unprecedented event of genocide that's now widely recognized, and that as TWAS fellows and scientists, we are developing a petition that captures this moment, and that will be shared with TWAS fellows electronically. And as we said, as individuals, as institutions, and as countries, you may choose to sign or not to sign, but you will have that opportunity. So we will start that process. If you're aware of TWAS fellows that we're missing when this petition goes out that captures the sentiments of a few people who've drafted this in the past few days, please do let us know. I wanted to share a personal bit here, which is, I was 17 when I joined the anti-apartheid movement. Also as a student in science in what was then a ethnic university in South Africa. And at that time, I was joining many people involved in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, and who had many hundreds and thousands who had lost their lives. In 1977, I did not imagine that I would see democracy in South Africa. 17 years later, in 1994, we did live to see democracy. But that was not the only challenge we faced, and that was possible because of global solidarity. It was possible because of sanctions that was being implemented by many countries against South Africa. And today, we have one of the finest democracies standing up for other nations as well. So I have a very special gift for Elena. It is a coin that was minted when President Mandela got the Nobel Peace Prize. And it's my honor and privilege, Elena, to hand this over to you as a symbol of your hosting this meeting, this historic meeting of TWAS in Rio, for all your contributions and all your support. And may it remind us that the struggle continues. Until we reach that point, we have to stay together, we have to have solidarity, we have to have unity, and we have to have hope. And as scientists, I hope that that's what, as scientists uniquely from the Global South, we have to ensure that all our countries experience peace and ensure that we can reach our full potential and we really evolve all together as humanity to take us to even greater heights. Louise's lecture gave us a preview of what is possible, but that's only possible if the kind of wild wars that we have now that are bent on destruction, destruction of people, destruction of countries, destruction of our biodiversity and one planet that we have, that's not acceptable and should never be acceptable. And we have to all keep trying, moving forward in our individual capacities and collectively. With that, I thank you all for being here, for staying on for the closing ceremony. But before I close, we have a short video on where the next conference will be, which is in Thailand.
Well, it's too emotional, but before I say some words, I need to really thank the ones that made it possible, financially speaking. And I hope I do not forget any. But special thanks. And we have Carlos Aragão here representing Finep. Without their support, this meeting wouldn't be possible. I also want to thank the Brazilian Development Bank, who also gave us financial support, CAPES, the Coordination for the Advanced Studies of Education, and all others that made it possible. I want to say that for us, this meeting was supposed to have happened last year, but I talked to Carisha, and I said it's impossible for us. We won't get the funding, and we have too many things going on. And I hope that we fulfill what was planned. And for us, for Brazil, it was an honor. And we had this meeting already in Brazil for 3 times. One was several years ago in Rio de Janeiro also. And we had the honor of having President Fernando Henrique Cardoso at the meeting. We had another one in Rio, but in the seashore in Angra dos Reis. And now this meeting, and we had the privilege also of having our really fantastic, in my opinion, president, who is really trying not to get a Nobel Prize. He doesn't want that. He wants peace, as Carisha clearly state to us. And it depends on us. And I think that we, as scientists, but most of all, we are society. And society has to say no. Society has to go to the streets. Society has an obligation. And here in Brazil, I was also, like Luis, I was not banished, I was lucky. But several of my professors were killed. Several of my colleagues were killed. And we had, about 3 years ago, a president who said that he didn't kill enough. He was the president of Brazil. So we need to fight for democracy, for our rights, for sovereignty. That's the purpose of having science. Science not, we are privileged people. We here in this room, we talked a lot about South and inequity, but we are privileged people in the South, and we have an obligation. We have to do that. The last, as professor from Chile, he said to me, the table discussion on health, he said it was fantastic because we didn't say that we are poor. We are looking forward how to get better and how to join force. So Carisha and Marcelo, thank you so much for having this meeting here in Brazil. And I apologize for things that didn't work in the way it was supposed to work. And I want to thank each one of you and take this message back home. Fight for the rights of humanity. We cannot stay quiet anymore. Thank you.
Welcome to Thailand, the land of smiles. A nation blessed with rich natural resources, a strong foundation in agriculture, and modern infrastructure that connects people, businesses, and ideas. Thailand is also a land of culture, renowned for its beautiful beaches, world-famous cuisine, and warm hospitality. Beyond culture and heritage, Thailand is shaping its future through science, research, and innovation. SRI is the key driver of economic growth, social well-being, and Thailand's growing visibility on the global stage. From advanced agriculture to frontier technologies, our researchers are building solutions that respond to both local and global challenges. Thailand Science Research and Innovation, or TSRI, plays a vital role in strengthening this foundation. For years, TSRI has worked with researchers, universities, industries, and international partners to ensure that knowledge is transformed into real impact. These efforts help expand markets, create high-value products, and ensure that Thai innovation reaches the world. Behind every achievement are dedicated scientists, innovators, and young researchers. They are the creators of new knowledge, the builders of technologies, and the drivers of economic transformation. Their work not only improves the lives of Thai people, but also contributes to the global pool of science and technology. For more than 6 decades, under the royal patronage of His Majesty, the King and the royal family, Thailand has advanced numerous projects that integrate science and technology into development. These royal initiatives reflect a profound commitment to innovation, sustainability, and the well-being of the Thai people. This legacy inspires our scientists to continue their pursuit of excellence. TSRI has already proven its ability to convene the world of science. In 2026, TSRI co-hosts the Global Research Council annual meeting by aiming Thailand's role as a hub for global collaboration, inclusive open science, and sustainable research. This experience reflects our readiness to host world-class scientific gatherings. Building on this momentum, TSRI is honored to host the TWAS General Meeting and Conference in 2027, bringing together Nobel laureates, world-class scientists, policymakers, and young talents from across the globe. This gathering will serve as a dynamic platform to showcase frontier science and advance mission of strengthening South-to-South cooperation, while also positioning Thailand as a hub for global North to global South exchange in research and innovation. By fostering inclusive collaboration, sharing knowledge, and translating research into solutions for global challenges, the event will highlight the critical role of science, technology, and innovation in building a more sustainable and equitable future for all. With robust research capacity, world-class infrastructure, vibrant culture, and unmatched hospitality, Thailand is ready to welcome the global scientific community. Together, we will advance knowledge, inspire the next generation, and address the pressing challenges of our time. Thailand is waiting to share its smiles with you. Join us in 2027 for TWAS, a journey of science, friendship, and global impact that will stay in your heart forever.
So that's a preview of the next general meeting that we will have in 2027. And with this, I think we close officially the 2025 meeting here in Rio. We wish all of you traveling safe travels, stay well, stay strong, and look forward to seeing you in 2027, if not before. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.